Hello, hello, everybody. Good to see you, everyone. I apologize for the delay, and I appreciate your patience. I know some of you came in before the stream started, and that really means a lot to me because I usually find it very rude when people schedule a certain time and then it end up being later. So I guarantee you, I promise I will punish myself for that later when people aren't listening, and I don't want to embarrass myself too much. And I wanted to say hello to people in the chat for coming in. Tonight is obviously this is Monday night for us in the US, so this will be our Lost in Space episode. My friend Mr. Nobody. And I wanted to say also hello, first of all, to my fellow panelists. Gorilla's Random Thoughts, how are you doing tonight? Oh, well, maybe we'll get back to Gorilla. And Antiderivative Jill, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I just want to say happy birthday, and please don't don't punish yourself. I've been known to start a stream late or too late. It's no big deal.
I know it's I get for being a perfectionist, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And welcome also to we have a special guest tonight. Uh, Hungry for better sci-fi scripts, even though all the writers are going on strike at this moment. How are you doing there, Hungry Boy?
I am just so happy to be here for this, which I consider one of the best science fiction scripts and portrayals of that scripts on television that I encountered as a kid, made me cry as a kid, broke my heart when I was in my 20s and in my 30s. And this episode is the gift that keeps on giving. It is everything that real science fiction on television should be about, but rarely is. So I am just impressed that we are here to celebrate it with you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you could make it. I know it's the time is not quite as easy for you to adjust because you're very far away, so it does mean a lot to me.
My main concern is I might start actually crying on stream when we start talking about this because there's a lot of things that just gets to me on this one. No, you guys are laughing because you guys are 70s kids like me. So you know we're going to get to this, and hopefully Jill will get to this. There is the whole disbelieve the witness thing, which really kills me in this episode. But it was well done. We'll get to that later. You guys are going to talk about it. I know you're going to talk about it, but Penny was right. Penny was right.
Especially getting that from somebody as scientifically minded as Will is outrageous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, we'll talk about that soon. And now we got to move on to PvP. I'm going to shut up before I get weepy waily.
How are you doing, PvP? Welcome. Good to see you.
I'm doing well. I agree with Hungry. Like, this is one of my favorite episodes, not just of Lost in Space, but of TV in general. I think the script by Jackson Gillis is absolutely fantastic. And there's so many points, but I won't talk about that yet. And I'll let Pop get into the episode first. But it's just one of those episodes. I can watch it over and over and over again, and it's just as good as it was the first time. And I could get weepy later too, because I do think it's a very emotionally powerful episode.
Yeah, you and I spoke last night about those last 5 minutes. We're not going to go there, but those last 5 minutes, oh my God. My gut is clenching. My gut is clenching, but and again, we'll talk about it. Oh God, I can't get over just like listen to Penny. She's the smart gal on the Jupiter too. Okay, yep. She's the smart one.
Yeah.
But let's go, guys.
Well, it's that old trope where they're just a little kid. It's their imagination. We've all had imaginary friends. Which her mother even kind of her mother goes into that, which is kind of insulting. But I can understand the point of view there because, I mean, it's a trope in Hollywood, so it's not like this is the first episode to handle this.
She had a possessed teddy bear.
A possessed teddy bear, possessed by someone named Mr. Noodles, apparently. Yeah, that sounds kind of scary.
Yeah, Mr. Noodles, that's quite a name.
Gorilla's Random Thoughts, are you with us tonight? How are you doing there, sir?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Did you get a chance to watch the episode today?
Yeah. Now, I got a question here. Is this the only time we've seen Mr. Nobody?
Yeah.
Well, so far, this is episode, 7 or 8 we're on now?
Yeah, like, are we ever going to get
7.
Are we ever going to get, like, an explanation what he is?
Kind of. If it's in the episode, but it's never talked about afterwards.
Right. It's not talking about any future episodes, but what you see here.
Yeah,
So
because it hardly explained a damn thing here. There's
no,
my
'cause
F.
this is science fantasy.
There's my F.
Damn it, gorilla.
Well, I'm sorry, Gorilla, if you didn't like it.
Pop,
All
what do
right.
I do every week?
I know.
It
Yeah, but
happens all
I
the-
know, but I was hoping we'd have an episode that doesn't start with an F, and I'm spending an hour trying to change your mind. It's just that
Hey,
I don't
Pop, I
know.
had 2 episodes in a row that I gave automatic A's to.
Well, but Gorilla, it happens all the time in Star Trek. Who are you? What? How can we find more about you? Oh, you're too young to learn more about me.
Yeah, okay. Now, to back up Jill, and I'm not picking on you, Gorilla, you got to understand that the 60s was very limited in regards to screen time. Screen time. And the whole situation and how you presented the sci-fi for one episode a week in episodic science fiction, there was no concept of let's explain this 2 episodes later. That did not exist back in the 60s. There was no way they could do it. There was no way.
Well, you got to remember too. But there's a lot of times where some of the best movies and TV shows are better left leaving you wondering. It's when they explain things too much, it usually disappoints. Just like when you're young, things are scarier that are in the shadows. When you actually see them, it explains everything. So sometimes I like when things are left a mystery.
With the exception, and you have agreed with me on this one, Pop, with the exception of the Joe Stefano Outer Limits episodes, which do explain everything, but in a satisfying.
Yeah, Outer Limits tends to show the monster. That's what the whole show's about, right? I agree.
I agree with you that such shows are absolutely Johnny out of step. I agree with you completely.
But some of them they mentioned a little bit when at the end. I'll cover it when we get to that part. But the scene with Judy and Don.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I won't be specific because I'll wait till we get to that part of the episode. But they do, I think, explain what Mr. Nobody is in a sufficient manner that I find satisfying anyway. So, because you don't really need to know too much detail, right? I mean, it's a basic idea, and it's not that hard to grasp it, really. So,
well, perfect example.
I'm happy with it.
Perfect example is the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Freddy Krueger was scary until they explained his background, and that's how it always happens every single time, without exception.
Yeah, I'd rather have a little explanation than bad explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, now just a note here. This is a bit of trivia, which it's going to be a spoiler for this episode, guys, but I'm going to read it because it addresses Jarilla's question. The underground deposit of diamonds will make a return in the episode Lost in Space, Blast Off into Space. As Mr. Nairn sweeps them away as a nuisance in his quest for cosmonium, there is a slight suggestion that the pure cosmic force, which is what made Mr. Nobody sentient and intelligent, could exist in the cosmonium. So, if to try to explain it in a fantasy way, I'm guessing it's similar. What it kind of reminds me of is the episode of TOS that we just covered, Metamorphosis. If someone asks who that being is that fell in love with Zephyr, whatever his name is,
Zephram Cochrane.
Zephram Cochrane. I always get the names mixed up with Zephram Ingram, this irritating little kid on Land of the Giants. I don't know why I get them mixed up. He's like a carbon copy.
That killed me. Why are you bringing that up? And we're going to talk about this episode. Now
I know.
It's tears.
Right, Land of the Giants, everybody. It's a show about giants, and it's got the cast is almost a carbon copy of Lost in Space, so it's not as good.
I'll bring my green and blue veil out for you, Hungry.
Oh, Jill, it's making it worse. No.
At least she's got the right color coordination, so I give her credit for that.
Oh, these shows. If you got empathy, these shows kill you.
And here's an assessment from the book. I was telling everybody in the back. Oh, by the way, hold on. Before we go any further, shame on me. I want to say hello to the people in the chat and give them their because we don't want to get too far. All right.
Well, you're also very good about
Chris Longfellow says hi all. Lemon Pie says hello, Pop.
Hello, Chris.
Yeah, and I'd like to try to keep that consistent. I don't want to get too far behind. That's even worse, and people are going to think, well, he's going to read my chat, and I don't want to disappoint.
You're very,
And Lemon
very
Pie says
good
hello,
about the
Chris.
chat, Bob. You're very good
Thank
about the
you.
chat, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I know when I go on streams and I'm in the chat, I don't always expect my comments to be read. But I have to honestly admit that when they just consistently ignore them, I tend to not go back to that channel.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is kind
Because
of
I feel like I'm talking
yeah.
to myself, and I'm like, what's the
Well,
point?
the thing is too, when you take the time to put a little thought into writing out a comment that you think is halfway intelligent, at least, you think that the host could at least, channel host could at least, read some of the chat, right? So
Or
Well, sometimes,
acknowledge it in some way. But just
yeah.
we talked about this the other night on Pop's channel. I think it was at the end of the Howling. But we don't want to get to any position where we're only reading what people pay for, and that's not fair. That's not
Oh
fair
yeah.
to the great minds.
oh yeah,
that-
you mean you're talking about the
Yeah.
channels that only read the super chats? Exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
But anyway, you guys go on.
Okay, Lemon Pie says hello, Chris. PvP says hello, and remember to post the link, which I hope I eventually did.
Yeah,
Lemon
you
Pie says, "Hey, Picker." And Dave G sounds so good to see you. I'm glad you could join us. Dave says hello there. And Pleasant Valley Picker, PMP, who's now on the panel, I guess I'm talking for him, says hi, Lemon. Lemon Pie says hello, Dave. And Lemon Pie says hi, Pop, Gorilla, Jill, Hungry, and Picker. Yeah, we've got a great panel around. I'm so excited. Dave G Sound says hi, Lemon Pie. Welcome, Mad Scientist. So good to see you, good friend. Happy birthday, Pop. Enjoy the show. Woman on your special, the Snow Woman on your special, Jay. Cheers to being such a good friend all these years. Likewise, Mad Scientist. So good to see y'all. And thanks for the text, Mad Scientist. I did get it, but I was busy driving home and I hadn't had a chance to respond. But thank you for the birthday wishes. It means a lot to me. And we have Jill here saying hi to Lemon Pie, Mad Scientist, and Dave G Sound. Dave G says hello, and I derivative Jill. And Stream Elements, I don't care about. But here we're caught up with the chat. So, all right. This is what I was going to say. This is an assessment I didn't get a chance to read the chapter ahead of time for this episode. This is from the book Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman. So I'm going to try to kind of breeze through it during the episode.
Well, if it's as good as the previous episodes, I mean, it seems to be an excellent book, I must say.
It is. The problem is I try to read it ahead of time, then I can mark all the highlights where I want to cover. But since I didn't do that, I've got to try to skim because it's a thick chapter. I mean, it has production notes, what time they filmed this scene on this certain day at 7:15 p.m. and who wore what makeup and everything. So there's an assessment here. Notable cult TV historian John Abbott, in an article devoted to My Friend Mr. Nobody for the February 1999 issue of TV Zone, wrote, My Friend Mr. Nobody is a beautiful, elegant fairy tale worthy of the Outer Limits or the Twilight Zone. The story also captures the day-to-day banality of the shipwreck group's existence. John and Don laboring the drill site for fuel, Maureen and Judy passing the time with, quote, women's interests, styling hair and baking pies, Smith and the robot idling away their time at chess, and Penny, a lonely little girl until an alien life force, alone for centuries, gives her the attention and adventure she craves.
That's a good synopsis.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. And, I didn't mention, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back really quick. I apologize, guys. Got to get this in order. This episode first originally premiered on October 27th, 1965. And I've got a couple photos here that I'm going to be... I was just taking the pictures of these photos with my phone as I was talking to you guys. So I'm trying to get caught up. And I emailed them to myself, and I'll be pulling that up during this stream. But there are a couple outtakes and some interesting behind-the-scenes photos that I usually try to cover with these episodes. So, without further ado, let's get started. It's 25 minutes already. All right. So, we begin where we left off last week, where Professor Robinson and Dawn are drilling for fuel, or mining for fuel, I guess you could say. and we get a little more explanation. Because I remember last week we were asking after the cliffhanger. We were like, well, how could they let Penny just be wandering around that site with all the explosives? But after the cliffhanger, the resolution here, we do get an explanation of that because after the explosion, her father does chastise her, but in a way, it still doesn't absolve him of responsibility or blame because they should have had signs posted in the area. They should have warned the family ahead of time. Obviously, we're going to be blasting over here. Everybody stay away. And if that would have happened, Penny wouldn't have wandered in. So I kind of give credit to both. So
Yeah, it kind of brings up the point of the episode again, though, that very little thought about Penny seems to be given from the other members of the crew, right? You know.
Yes. Also, here's a note here I just spotted. Jackson Gillis. Irwin Allen really liked him. So he wrote him back for a TV pilot of, if anybody's seen the 1976 movie, which has only been shown once on TV, called Time Travelers, where they go back to old time Chicago, right as Mrs. O'Leary's cow starts Chicago on fire. I'll put it that way. Start Richard Basehart. And you can find it. It's probably on YouTube. I know I've seen it not too long ago. And I saw a channel covering it. So it's an interesting movie. And like I said, Richard Basehart's in it because he had been doing Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He was a fine actor. Heavy smoker. And like many people, it took him at an early age.
You're not going to up on the smoking thing, are you, Pop?
Well, no, because now everybody looks at it in a different light. There's so many wonderful lives that it took. My mother died at age 60 because she chain smoked 3 packs of menthol 100th a day. And I'm just thinking she'd still be alive with me now if she had listened to us. Every time we tried to bring it up, she'd get upset. Oh, but there's people that live in their 90s that smoke. Well, right.
Yeah, well, yeah, but not every...
I'm not being pro-smoking. I used to be a smoker, Pop. I used to be a hard smoker.
Me too. Me too. I quit.
All right.
Yeah, I quit.
Hey, welcome, Phantom Boomer, and LDG. Welcome,
hello, guys. Oh, no offense to any smokers out there. If anybody smokers are listening, no offense, you guys.
Oh,
it's because I care about these people when I see them die, being taken away much too soon. Is all.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of my best friends passed away in his early 50s because I kept telling him, please stop smoking, please, and he just kept smoking, and not fun.
And you lose your godmother like I did, right? And you lose your uncle like I did. And then you got to be honest with people, because if we are, again, I apologize, Jill, I don't mean to leave you out, but, with us 70s kids, us 70s kids, we had to say to people, drop the devil's talcum powder. And you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Because that's
how many of us grew up in a household where everybody was smoking inside the house with the windows and doors closed?
That was my father. That was my father.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the thought of that is just mind-blowing. And I know somebody who still does that.
Yeah.
And of course that person wonders why nobody wants to go visit them.
Well, yeah. Totally,
The other thing is, just for everybody who has quit smoking, and I know you've always gone through this, but this goes into the wholesomeness. This is actually not off topic. The wholesomeness of Lost in Space, the loving care that is shown in Lost in Space. When you have quit for, let's say, 2 to 5 years, and then you meet somebody sexy and you kiss them, and they've been smoking like 30 cigarettes in the past hour, you can't handle it, can you?
Yeah. I could not date a woman that was a smoker.
Well, not only that, though, when you think about smokers, male or female, why do they bother buying cologne or perfume? It does not cover it up, right?
Yeah, that's a bit silly, isn't it? Yeah.
Right.
That's a creep show moment, dude. That's an Adrienne Barbeau creep show moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I just want to mention Jackson Gillis here. I've got the Lost in Space wiki up here. He wrote 7 episodes of Lost in Space. He also says here that he was a writer and associate producer on Perry Mason, which I never realized.
Ooh,
and he also wrote episodes. Yeah, and he wrote episodes of Columbo as well, and 15 episodes of The Adventures of Superman. So he was a pretty busy guy, really,
And those are all good shows. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Superman was 1957, 58.
Yeah, I love that show. That's a great show.
I mean,
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's
like,
gonna be something we're gonna be talking about soon. Is how writers who are real writers versus hello, I just came from Tumblr. Okay, they you know what I'm talking about. Like
Oh
they had
yeah.
to live life, and they had to be able to be journeymen, workaday writers, and
Oh
work
yeah.
in several different genres at the same time, so they could bring something from Perry Mason into science fiction, and then somebody from science fiction might be able to bring something to Columbo. And I think that is something that really shines here in this episode, where the writing is universal. You don't have to be a science fiction
Mm.
person right from the bat with this scene that Pop is showing.
Well,
And
I,
it's just, go ahead.
I just want to mention, I think Gillis, writing for shows like Perry Mason and Columbo, that when you're writing kind of like, police procedural stuff like that,
Yeah.
you've kind of got to have a disciplined mind to write the
yes.
episodes that actually make sense,
And you have to pay
story
attention to
wise.
detail, right? And pay attention to
Yeah, that
detail.
too. Yeah.
Hey,
And,
I think Jill would agree that should always apply to science fiction too.
yeah,
Yep.
totally. Hey, I just
Yeah,
want to mention too.
I'm one of those geeky kids that I would come home from school in second and third grade and sit down and watch Perry Mason. I used to love Perry Mason, so
Yeah, I used to
that's the
watch
difference
that.
between kids then and kids now. You couldn't fathom a kid sitting down watching a show about a lawyer and a bunch of talking heads
Yeah.
these days.
I just want to mention Gillis also was an intelligence officer serving in the Pacific during World War II. So there's the life experience for you.
Oh, that
Yes,
helps
thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
You guys noticed that a lot of Hollywood performers that served were usually very exceptional. They were much better than most of the people around them.
Mm.
Right, but before that's going to make us go wade into the weeds with Scotty
I
and
know.
other people who served in World War II. So we probably should move right into
Yeah,
it.
we
Right,
should probably.
and when we say Scotty, we mean Jimmy Doohan, guys.
Yes, we do.
we
Yes,
should
we
probably
do.
go along on the episode here before it gets way
Well,
too late.
I know. I think Jill stepped away, so I'm just kind of filling
Oh,
time
she's
so she
away.
comes back.
All right, let's
Oh,
catch
okay,
up on chat.
let's do it.
Thank you. If you
Oh
could
yeah,
do that
she
for
is.
me, Gorilla, I
Right.
appreciate it. And I'm going to scan through this book.
Yeah, Lemon Pie says hi, Mad, Phantom, LDG, and Germ. Resolute says Penny is the second daughter, so she's just kind of extra.
Ow!
And Phantom says hi to Lemon, LDG, and Germ. Resolute says hi, Pie. Jill says hi to Germ. Germ says hi, Jill. Phantom says hey to everybody on the panel. Hey there, Phantom.
I found it.
Right on, girl. You should always do that. Just say she says hi to everybody. Every time they say hi to everybody, just say hi to everybody. Just do it.
Or I could just do it the way I normally do it.
Hi to everybody.
Hi to
Hello, hello.
everybody.
This episode was directed by Paul Stanley, who was 44 at the time. And no, it's not Paul Stanley from Kiss.
Thank goodness.
uh,
That would have been kind of weird if he directed it. He
here's some
probably wasn't alive though at that time. So
yeah, because Kiss was around the 70s, so I'm guessing he was a kid, probably teenager.
yeah.
Suggested changes to reduce production costs and problems on this episode. Here's some notes. Change the tilting rock and hole to a pivoting rock that bars the entrance to the cavern. Delete Smith's falling into the cavern, but keep Penny climbing out. Modify the explosions in the cavern. Shake set, use dust, and drop a little rubble and a few small rocks. Penny will be knocked to the ground and strikes her head against a rock. Don and Smith running from the fissure drilling area. Eliminate whirlwind, whirling brush, rolling, and falling rocks. The POV of the eruption. The earth will tremble and the men will fall. And we'll hear a sound effect of Mr. Nobody's anger. Also, eliminate the whirlwind from the space camp set and substitute some other visual gimmick that would be involved only with photo effects and or a possible miniature of the spaceship and camp area. There could be a violent wind on the real set, but do not write in any whirling or moving objects. However, the business with Smith and the diamonds could be retained. So that shows they're even talking about counting how many rocks are flying around, I guess. So here we are. Sorry about that, guys. We're now 35 minutes into the
Well,
stream.
see, this is what I've been waiting for. An episode where the party tries to think of their future and how they can reach their mission's original destination or go back to Earth like Dr. Smith wants.
Yes, and in order to do that, they're drilling for what they could be later used for fuel. And so we have them setting the charges. This is from the teaser from last week. And Professor Robinson or Don are setting up the tripod area. And as you can see, the wires and the blasting box and everything. And by the way, this overhead shot here, where we can see the set. We mentioned it with the episode with from Welcome Stranger, where they take the camera up high, put them in the Raptors, and look down on the set. You won't see that many more times in the entirety of the series because it was very time consuming for them to mount the camera. So that's one of the things I do miss in further episodes. Everything's grounded on ground
I
level.
do really like this shot too. I think it's a very effective shot to introduce Penny into the story, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and this is also a good episode because you warned me early on that the women weren't going to get to be in much danger, and so this one definitely puts Penny in danger.
Yeah.
It does.
Can I? May I add something?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is absolutely classic Silver Age, good comic books in the way that the whole thing is laid out and presented visually, because we got certain different angles. So Penny looks very small against the background there, and later on, that is foreshadowing. That's visual foreshadowing versus script foreshadowing, because she is made to feel small in other ways later on. So this is setting things up for us to feel for Penny and to appreciate Penny and be on Penny's side. And that just means a lot to me. And I'm going to try not to start crying because I know what's coming up.
Well, you're right too, and it also shows her loneliness because she's basically
Yeah.
entertaining herself. She has no friends.
Yeah.
And look
Very
at
good
the
comment.
devastatingly
Yeah, right.
desolate
She-
background. And
She's an
alone.
outcast from even her own family. They don't even tell her they're doing this experiment, and
Right
she
on,
has no
Jill.
idea what's going on.
Where are her blood family? Why is nobody being a friend to this girl? It pisses me off.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking because Penny's such a sweetie, and you feel for her, so bad for her the way she's being treated. It's just awful, really.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
But
totally.
but like every other episode, though, everybody gets their comeuppance in the end, and they regret treating her the way they did.
They do, but it's not
Right.
forgivable. It's not forgivable. It is not forgivable. She should have
Yeah.
been treated better at this point. And she's the one who's actually looking at the situations in both a scientific and a metaphysical way. I mean, she's honestly at this point, especially in this episode, she's kind of the heart of the Jupiter 2.
Oh, that's true.
And the thing is, she's very intelligent.
Yeah.
She's very intuitive. She's very open-minded, and I think those are great assets, for anybody to have. And yeah, I just the whole way the family treats her, it does really upset me when I watch
It
this.
is one of the few times the rest of the family is, to a certain extent, despicable. Because no smart girl with a big heart who wants to do the right thing for everybody has no self-interest, is not selfish at all. There is no reason or excuse to treat such a person badly. Ever.
Yeah, Penny's never selfish.
Never. And that's going to be really big in this episode. And later on, we're going to get to the Mirror Universe episode, and then that's going to be fun.
And I had a word of note. I was listening to the Fireside Chat last night on Spidey's channel, and Hungry, I hate to do this, but Moon, you were talking about Cartwright on Alien and
I know.
Days of the Body Snatchers. That was her sister, her older sister.
Yeah, I know. I was wrong on that one.
That's okay.
I take that hit, but the Cartwright sisters are both wonderful.
Both of them, yes. Angela, the older. I'm sorry. Angela's the young one, and Veronica's the older one.
Veronica.
Veronica had a much more prolific career.
Oh, much more. Yeah.
Yeah,
and she
so
was
it's
really
a shame.
Because didn't Angela only act like into her 20s or something, and then she kind of gave up on the career at a certain
I don't
point?
remember her doing much at all past Lost in Space.
I think she did some random
I could be
stuff,
wrong. Maybe she
don't
did.
think
She
she-
may have appeared in a few episodes of TV shows that a lot of people did before they usually end their career. They'll, guest star on like Mannix or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
I think she probably did.
And by the way,
Well, let's see.
That's the stunt girl standing there. That explains the frumpy outfit because she just threw it on for the explosion.
Rude.
And I
Actually,
wanted to go
she
ahead.
did act in movies from 1956 through 2010. She did, some stuff over the years. I mean, there's probably only about 10 movies, so it's not a huge. And then she did some TV too from into the 60s, 60s, 70s, a few things in the 80s, and yeah, so not a huge career, but she did stay active.
Well,
Very
to be
cool.
fair, too, before we move on, to be fair, when you're, I don't mean to sound woke here. I really apologize if I do. All right, I apologize, but women in science fiction at this stage in history didn't have a lot of opportunities. They were never going to be the big star. They weren't going to be the person on the movie poster that could bring someone into a movie in the cinema. So if you
Mhm.
could marry well after being a great actress on a TV show, if you could marry well and retire at this time in history, I'm not apologizing for it, but it could have been a good idea. It could have been a very good reason to say, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to now be with the person who said I'm magnificent and just have a happy home life, a traditional family life. And pop culture always says, where is the traditional family life, the home life, being represented in science fiction and horror now? And if she achieved that, if she got what she wanted out of that, can we say, okay, you're a bad person for not acting
Well, the
anymore?
thing too, I'm looking here, and it says she married in 1976,
Yes.
and she must be still married to the same person because
That's what
there's
I was
nothing
kind of
about
alluding
divorce or
to.
anything. And they have two children together, so it sounds like a
Oh,
very happy,
So you know what I'm talking about, right?
relationship. So power to her.
Right. And I mean, it's not like we have people here on the panel who are not dedicated family people, right?
Right.
exactly right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the other thing you're saying makes a lot of sense because that attitude is reflected in this episode where all the men get to do the very important mining work and the women
Right.
are doing their
Yeah,
hair.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't want you to laugh too much, Jill, but if you had been Penny in this episode, it would have lasted about 15 minutes. Because I mean, everybody would have just accepted Mr. Nobody is real. We're going to accept this alien creature. It is like the Horta before the Horta existed. You're all going to shut up and just pay respect to this other sentience. But
Well, not
am I
only
wrong?
that though, Penny would have had the line, "Oh, but Will can be here during all this, and he's even younger than I am."
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was hoping she was going to say to stand up for herself because I realized that Will is the one with the electronics aptitude and he's a savant or something. But she still has the right to learn how to be safe around these explosives.
Yeah.
Right.
Will's kind of a real dick in this episode too, isn't he? He's not very nice at all to Penny. I thought, Will, you little,
He was
you
a
know,
little rough the way he spoke. Yes, I completely agree. Condescending.
yeah, he was terrible.
There's
I'd
some
rather
episodes where it's like
be
loving brother and sister. Then there's some episodes where we've all had a brother and sister where we've had those attitudes sometimes as well.
Mm.
It's true. It's real.
do you have siblings, Jill?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a brother. And we
Okay.
picked on each other for sure.
Oh,
I love it. I love it when you guys on the panel can say things I'm not allowed to.
Well, it's open game here, so you're allowed to say whatever you want as long as you can keep it PG or under.
Oh yeah, PG
oh
or
yeah.
under. Sorry, Scotty. PG or under.
And I wanted to mention really quick, William Bramley provided the voice of Mr. Nobody.
Oh God,
Among
I
his
like.
on-screen appearances, he played Baldy Baldwin in The Premonition, an episode of The Outer Limits, and the leader of a group of modern-day Roman Empire centurions in Bread and Circuses on Star Trek.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
cool. Yeah,
And
his
you,
voice is great in this episode. It just makes the character come to life. Even though we don't really ever see him, until the end a little bit, but
we couldn't do without him. It's a voiceover characterization, and I would actually say, and Pop and PvP will know exactly what I mean by this. It is up there with Paul Frees. It is a voice over
Yes.
acting tour de force like Paul Frees. And if you didn't have Paul Frees, you would not have the Haunted Mansion at Disney. You would not have the Thing from Another World when he was
Tony the
one of the
Tiger.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I mean, Paul DeFreeze, this with Mr. Nobody is up there with Paul Frees' work. And because I mean we have no visuals. The sets will shake, as you'll be talking about later. The sets will shake. There will be, earthquakes. There will be seeing a moment of the cosmos at the end. But we never see a monster. We never see a costume. We never see a face. It's all about the voice.
And that's another reason I love this episode so much, because it takes that trope of the alien entity, which almost always is hostile and dangerous, and
Right.
totally flips it on its head. And here we
Right.
have an alien entity that's kind, generous, loving. It's just totally the opposite of what
And
most
sweet.
sci-fi would be.
Mr. Nobody is sweet, and some of the
He is.
dialogue within it. He's sweet.
And he's lonely.
Well,
He's
and
lonely
he's
too, right?
also very naive. He's also very naive because he's never met anyone before.
He's childlike.
Yes.
He's childlike, really.
It's breaking my heart. I'm crying already. God damn it.
I know people in the chat are like, "Okay, are we ever going to start this episode?"
Yeah,
Just a sec,
go
here,
for it.
guys. Guys, Jill, your biggest fans here.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
Here we go.
Jill fan club.
And
there.
apparently we're all miscellaneous here.
Yeah.
But I'll be back in a couple minutes. I gotta go find
for
the kid's damn watch.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. So the blast goes off, and now there, as we see that Professor Robinson does check Penny to make sure he's okay, and he asks her to check all her fingers, and he chastises her once again, and like I mentioned earlier about not being around explosives like this. But like as we all saw, she didn't really know. She was just out playing, and as she will bring up later, after they tell her basically, go find something to do, go play with yourself. And then we see there's a line of dialogue where she's walking among the plants and everything, and she says, even her mother said, go play. So basically, this took place after her mother already got rid of her as well. Okay, and let me see, Kay. Okay, so this is a good chance. Okay, I'll show this really quick because Jill's away. I have a map I want to show you guys. Let me download this really quick. There's a Irwin Allen, apparently. A lot of times he had them for most episodes of Lost in Space. Irwin Allen had the art department create a travel action map tracing the movement of the characters in the story. So let me cover that. Make sure I get the right picture the first time, hopefully. And it shows the book. It's not what I wanted. There it is. Oh, that can't be the picture. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to retake it, okay, guys, because it didn't turn out quite as clear as I wanted. So I will bring it up later on in this stream.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, but I guess we're ready to continue with the slides.
Sounds good.
I don't know how that photo turned out so horribly bad. I mean, that was like shameful. So here they have them resetting the explosives. They're going to blast again. And like we mentioned earlier, what they're apparently blasting for is fuel, potential fuel for the ship.
Such great shots. Oh, that right there. Such a great shot. Such great composition. And it giving us, I mean, look at the shadows versus the light and people knowing how to use exposure with the cameras, taking into account the costumes and the props. I mean, this is respect to the visual accuracy of the reader, of the audience. This is just a great shot.
You know what I also love about this scene, Hungry, is John Williams' musical score. Like it's amazing in this scene. Like it's just like the music feels like a fantasy almost, right? With the tone.
But isn't this the last time he does a whole
It is
score?
the last. Yes, the last Lost in Space.
Well, he does
actually
return for season 3.
Yeah, he does the theme for season 3.
But to back PvP up, I mean, the music really killed me here as a kid, as a teenager, in my 20s, in my 30s. I rewatched this episode 9 times. I almost never watch anything 9 times. But this episode got to me, and a lot of that, to back up what you're saying, is the music and knowing exactly when to have it and when to have it go away. And oh, geez, look at this. Thank you guys. You are doing so well with the slides. This, man.
What a nice set, huh?
Oh,
pretty
man.
All
awesome.
right. Hey, can we catch up on the chat here real quick?
Yes, thank you, Gorilla.
Okay, Matt's laughing there. And welcome, Captain Finity. Welcome, welcome.
Hail,
Says
Captain.
hi, Captain. And Lemon says a Captain Hat. Lemon says hello, Matt G. And Captain says hello, Lemon Jill.
Hello, Matt G and Capfinity.
All right, that's it.
Captain Crowdfunding, by the way.
All right, let's get on with the episode here. We're losing viewers.
Hello?
Hello?
What happened?
Sorry about that. And then we have Penny wandering along the foliage here, and she's pretty much entertaining herself, finding things to do. And she decides to go over by the water, and then suddenly we get this little geyser here coming out of the water. I got to see what's going on. Oh, no wonder airplane mode. Okay, I'm fighting with my phone here to send out these pictures. So she hears a voice, because basically I can't remember the word she uses, but then she hears a deep male voice repeated. And then she says,
Hey.
of course, like, hey, that's it. And then she says echo, I think, at one point, like most people usually do. And that's when she discovers the entrance to this cave here.
This is art. This is pure art. I mean, this is foreshadowing, but also telling the story at the same time. And you know, the whole echo of the voice, this, it wounds me how beautiful this is.
Well,
There
this
we
is
go.
communicating with another life who just happens to know how to repeat English and understand it really quickly.
There we go. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys this picture that I was trying to enclose here a moment ago. If I don't mess it up, and I'll cover this really quick, and then we'll get back to the slides, I promise. All right, this is the action travel map that Irwin Allen had designed specifically around this episode, my friend Mr. Nobody. And if you scroll down here, you'll actually see where the Jupiter 2 is. I can even scroll. Don't want to zoom in too far. There we are. There's the location of the spaceship and the route, which I'm guessing those dots are them walking. And then you have the rocks here. That we do see them coming around the rocks on the left-hand side there, like towards the end when all the storm is going on. And then it comes up here to where we have all the blasting area and where they're doing the actual digging and where the cave is with Mr. Nobody. We even have the pond with all the plants around it. So this is kind of nice because in the episode, you don't see all these locations linked together where you can imagine, but this kind of helps piece it together when you see it like this, where it kind of gives you an idea about how far away they are from the spaceship. So there we go.
Yeah,
I just wanted to cover that really quick.
Pretty amazing detail, really.
It is. And we finally, thanks to Jill, we have the wonderful slide. By the way, everybody, I want to once again thank Jill for the wonderful slides and putting them together for this, because I know that's a lot of work and very time consuming.
You're welcome. It gets me a little closer to the episode, so that's also fun.
Oh, that's excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jill. And this is, his first episode, Jackson Gillis, and he does go on to write another 6 after this. So.
And here we have where Judy's getting a hairstyle, and I guess she likes number 476. Will be very becoming. But and I'm not much of a hair expert, but it looks almost identical to after she gets the hair.
You know, I'm trying to thinking too when I saw this. It's like 476. Like, how many bloody hairstyles does anybody need? It's like, yikes, that seems
Well,
excessive.
doesn't she have like a dome or some sort of hat she puts on that styles her hair?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
there
it
it
is.
is.
It's like a cosmic hair dryer or something.
Can you imagine how many hair salons they'd put out of business if they really invented something like that? You just push a button with a picture you like and put something on your head and take it off and
Yeah,
you hit a hairstyle.
that'd be handy.
I wish.
I know it'd be great for getting a haircut. Oh, it saves so
Yeah.
much time.
And
Yeah.
again, thank you for the slides, Jill. These kick ass.
You're welcome.
And so here's
Yeah.
where we get a kind of a build up here. Where
Yeah,
why
there's
they don't believe
Will.
her, because when she starts to tell them about the voice, and they, well, don't you know, kind of in a condescending manner, don't you know what you've seen, a white rabbit? So they think that she's kind of like similar to Alice in Wonderland. That maybe her
Yeah.
imagination's getting the best of her.
Yeah.
And I know and Will says a line here which is pretty cruel, and
Yeah,
probably would
Will's
not
being
be
a real
allowed by
jerk.
today's standards. Yeah, I guess Jackson Gillis really liked Penny, but I guess he disliked Will just as much, apparently.
Yeah. Well, he I think of the 7 episodes, 6 of them actually featured Penny as the central character. So
That's what I'm reading here. That most of them
Yeah.
did.
yeah, he had some real
Sorry.
fascination with Penny. I don't know why, but he
Maybe
just
he had a
thought she
daughter.
was.
Maybe he had a daughter that
Yeah.
he identified with.
Well, I think he realized that she had the character traits that would make an interest, as a character that would make interesting stories. So I'm glad
Did
he
you have
did.
something you were trying to say, Jill?
Well, yeah, Maureen is a lot nicer about it, but she doesn't believe her either.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a betrayal. I mean, honestly, a mother should at least take the time to consider believing the daughter at this point. At least I feel that way. So that's one of the reasons that this bloody gutted me. It's like, okay, I can understand John Robertson's going, nah, not interested. Dawn, nah, not interested. Her older sister, no, not interested. But the mom, for God's sake, at least try to show an interest in what the daughter is saying to you.
Yeah, you think when the hairstyle's more important than Penny, right? Like
Yeah.
Maureen doesn't seem to care about Penny at all, and I
Oh,
mean,
so
you'd think
glad you
she'd.
found such a nice game to play.
All right,
Oh
now
yeah,
go
you
bugger
think
off.
you think she'd wonder, what Penny's been up to, like, you'd think, right?
Well, and being on an alien planet, you never know what to expect. So yeah, I'd be listening a little
yeah.
closer to the
Hey,
kids.
stop with the Cyclops already, for God's sake.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, I mean, did they kill all the Cyclops off? I guess they did.
That we know of, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's no
You know,
families.
that's what I was thinking this whole time, that one of the Cyclops has started to talk and he was stuck somewhere. Whole
Okay,
episode.
that's interesting theory.
That would have been an interesting ending where, yeah, the explosions released him and saved him, and he's like, thank you. I'll keep an eye out for you next time.
Oh, here we have some great, wonderful lighting in.
No,
in
I've
the
never
cave.
seen it before.
Yeah, so here's where Penny follows the voice into the interior of this cave. And at this point, the voice can only repeat one word at a time. And it slowly starts to barely increase its vocabulary to 2. I don't know if they can do 3 words at a time, which is what she's doing now.
Such a beautiful science fiction build-up, this. Exactly what you're saying. Starting out with 1 word, leading to 2, leading to 3. I mean, this is in no way an insult to the intelligence of the viewer, right?
Oh, absolutely
Totally.
not. Yes.
And Angela's performance here is just so genuine. It just feels so real. I just think her performance in this episode is fantastic.
Well, big
Right.
surprise to everybody. Angela Cartwright in interviews said this is her favorite episode, so I'm sure that's understandable.
I'm not surprised, yeah, because she had a great script to work with. So yeah.
Well, and she gets more screen time than she usually does as well. She's
Oh,
usually brushed off to the
lots.
side.
Yeah, exactly.
So here we have them back blasting, like they were earlier. They're drilling for more fuel. And by the way, the drilling goes in hand with the plot. So that's kind of, I guess you could say, kind of like the B plot of this episode, the subplot. But
Yeah.
it does advance the plot unlike a lot of other shows with several subplots. The
Unlike
subplot in this actually
TNG.
advances the episode.
Yeah,
Right.
true,
Unlike
true.
TNG.
I didn't mean to say any show in particular there. But I know.
Yeah, but no, I mean, there are a lot of shows that we like where the B plot is getting in the way of the A plot, whereas here, to back you up, Pop, the B plot is supplementing the A plot.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. And,
Well,
and it
yeah.
doesn't overshadow the main plot. The main plot is still the main plot.
But the
The,
B plot
the
does.
subplot is only there to support it. And
Yeah,
more time
but
is spent on the A plot. That's what I wish they would all be. Sorry,
it
go
does
ahead,
contribute
PvP.
to the story in this episode a great deal, though, because it kind of works into Dr. Smith's motivation later on, right?
And from what we know, excuse me, because we find out here that those explosions affect Mr. Nobody down there. So how do we know that first explosion didn't release it and brought him to life? But I guess he doesn't mention those rocks down there about being very old, so he's been down there lonely all this time.
Well,
Yeah.
the implication was he was nascent, to use a developmental term.
Mhm.
And then we're expected to be smart enough to understand what nascent is in subtextual script writing without it being spoon-fed to us, which is why this 1960s stuff is always better than what we get today.
Yeah. Well, they used to think the audience had a brain, right? Even as a kid, watching this, I realized that it had respect for me as an audience member. So yeah, totally.
Well, and not only that, but though, like a good example, like Batman, the TV series, they would put names on the back computer and all the objects because they wanted to teach the kids. So
Oh.
they were either not
Oh, is
talking
that
down
why
to them.
everything was labeled?
I
I
never
thought it
s-
was just cute.
I
Well,
never thought of that.
it was, but it was also because they knew there were kids growing up learning how to read and write who were watching that show,
Hmm,
and they cared about that.
interesting.
Jill.
And it was cute too. I liked it too. So
It
yeah.
was fun.
So
Yeah.
I do agree with Jill.
But the mother here finally wonders if Penny is in danger. So it's good eventually she gets there.
Right. She finally comes around after she's done working with Judy all day with the hair. Hopefully she'll join number 476.
All day.
Oh, better than number 475, right?
Oh man.
All these kids would have been better with Jill as the mother. I'm sorry, Maureen.
I agree. I think they have been treated much more fairly.
Yeah. True.
Well, Maureen would have gotten more airtime too.
Yes, she would. I would have loved, just like I mentioned with her, I would have loved to see Maureen with that laser pistol out blasting monsters and stuff. It's just, yeah. And everybody, by the way, we've talked about it in prior streams, but it's not just, okay, everything was, of course, looked at in a different light back then. But it wasn't just sexism on the behalf of the writers of the episodes. A lot of this was stipulated by the network on how the women were treated in these shows. So I know some people are, like they have to blame the writers and the viewers and everybody else, but a lot of times it's because of the censorship back then. It just didn't like we verbatim read right out of this book where it says it didn't want to see women in danger and all this kind of stuff. So
That's another reason I really respect Jackson Gillis for writing this episode, because I mean Penny definitely is a very forceful character in this, right? I mean she drives the episode, and it's not like she's a helpless little girl, right? She's actually intelligent and the center, and so I kind of thought that was very refreshing that he wrote a storyline like
Well,
that.
she's brave enough to explore new life.
Yeah,
she
and
finds it.
she's not afraid of it either, right? She welcomes learning about this entity, which I thought was great. So yeah, lots of fun.
Well, to back up PvP and to back up Jill with what you just said, I hate to use wanky screenwriting language, but she is the force of agency in this script. No one else is.
Yes.
No one.
True, definitely. Yeah, I mean Maureen and Judy are basically, they're either doing hair or they're cooking or they're doing laundry, or that seems to be their total role in the series really most of the time.
Right, in this episode, they did the dishes, they did the hair, they did cherry pie.
There you go.
Made dinner. Yep.
Jill, the only
yeah.
thing we were missing were the shoes.
Yeah.
Where are the shoes?
Yeah, it was a few years before feminism, wasn't it?
And look, I do all those things too, but I do other things also on top of that.
Well,
Right
well,
on.
we had. Well, remember we've had different layers of feminism over the years. We did have feminism
Mhm.
back then. This was the era they were burning bras, so women's lib was coming to fruition around the '60s.
Yeah, it
It's
was
just that it
starting.
wasn't far radical like it is now as a day.
Well, the thing is, too, the TV networks, like a
Yeah.
lot of people in authority, were behind the times, right? So,
I think the 90s had it just right.
Yeah, well, okay, but also to back up what Pop's saying, okay. I come from a family with 3 generations of feminism in it, 3, and one of them is the original hardcore version, but was fair to men from about 1971 onward, which is the Gloria Steinem era of
Oh, yes.
feminism. Which is,
oh yeah,
this would be totally acceptable to Steinem, and also a certain woman who comes from Australia who went to university with my mother, Germaine Greer, who actually tried to sleep with my mother, by the way.
oh really?
And-
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
but
Yep.
she was also progressive.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding.
I'm not saying my mom was progressive. I'm saying Germaine Greer, who did not bathe, so her nickname was Germs at the
Oh,
university.
Yeah.
well, that sounds sexy.
But yeah, I mean, Germaine Greer is very fair about things, and she looks at story content versus making a story oblique for the sake of a message. She does not like making a story oblique for the sake of a message. And one thing she admitted to my mother is she liked Lost in Space. She
Cool.
liked Penny. You know,
Cool.
so I think that's
Awesome.
a nice little addendum to add here for the show.
That's cool.
Well, I think I'm a guy, but I have to say that I mean, for women out there, and Jill can maybe tell
Hold
us what
on,
she
Ava.
thinks.
Okay, I'll get you a new. They're actually directly talking to me. Can you get her a new shirt? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking on air.
You're fine. Jill's got a
I'll be
family
back.
there, guys.
I'll be back. I do
Go
have
for
a
it.
family. Okay, I'll
Right,
be back.
totally fine. All right. So while she's doing that, I'm gonna show another still photo here that I was going to.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to mention I really enjoyed seeing the robot playing chess with Dr. Smith here again. That was fun.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that great?
Yeah. We saw
And you
his
can see,
little
too-
claw extension.
Right,
thing.
and if you'll notice the detail that when the robot has to reach down and actually grab a chess piece and move it, you can see he really stoops over because he has to see out of that dome around the neck.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's cool. It's kind of hilarious too. I mean, the robot is kind of goofy looking when he does stuff like this, which makes me laugh.
But this is kind of like real sci-fi, where it's like,
Oh, it's great.
you know, the artificial intelligence contained in this big clunky body is still contained in a big clunky body, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's definitely 60s. Yeah.
And look at that expression on Jonathan Harris. God bless him. Oh my God! I am being beaten by this bubble-headed booby.
Yeah, I think he's realized he's going to lose another match again. So it's pretty funny.
Well, and this
It
is
was-
also
He was
Go ahead.
kind of evil in this episode, though. I thought, like they'd been making him like a little less evil in the previous few, but this one he's a real stinker again. You know?
well, yeah. That greed apparently stands out above all else. But what I want to
Yeah.
mention, and something else too, is that among some of the Smithisms to find their way into this episode, he calls the robot a blundering bag of bolts. Now, remember, this was new at this point. And for the first time in the entire series, says,
Yes.
"Oh, the pain, the pain."
Yes, we finally get one of his iconic lines. Yes.
Right. Neither of these lines were in the September 8th revised shooting final script.
Really?
So they're guessing that Harrison added them up made them up on the set, which is very, very likely.
Awesome.
Oh my
This is
back!
what-
My delicate back.
Yes, all that was made up by him. Yeah, and they would add it in the here, as it said here, it was not in the script, but in later episodes, the more he added his Smithisms, I guess you could say, when he
Yeah.
arrived on set, he would tell the script writer and say, "Add this, add this, add this." And sometimes he would just be on spontaneous on the set. They would just continue and not cut it out.
Yeah, I'm glad they
We can't.
gave
We
him the
can't.
creative freedom to do that.
Look, we can. We all grew up with this and loved it. Okay, so we cannot disagree with the wisdom of this choice.
Yeah,
Well,
I
think
was a
about
kid.
this. Like you were
I was
mentioning
a kid
earlier,
back then. Yeah.
PvP, right? PvP, like you were saying, he's really a nasty guy in this episode. Those two lines
He's
kind
kind of
of
mean.
soften him up a little bit. It adds a little bit of humor to his character to kind of balance
Yeah.
out that bad guy
But still,
image.
like when he realizes what's going on in the cave, his greed sort of gets the best of him, and he doesn't seem to really be too concerned about Penny's safety at all at that point, which I think
All
is kind
right.
of disgusting, really. You know.
Well, and it's not the last time we'll see examples of like that from him.
Yeah. Well, he is a greedy man.
Yes, he is.
Well, I'm sorry about interrupting the stream. Usually I'm really good at meeting that stuff.
No, you're fine, Jill. You're totally fine. My
But
question
it's
was
kind
for
of
you.
funny. Yes.
My question for you, Jill, is I'm a guy, so I wouldn't know. But
Mhm.
being a girl, would you kind of identify with Penny here, being a little girl, and can you make does it help you sympathize with her character,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. She's a bookworm and she's a free spirit and she's trying to figure out what it's like to not really be able to find yourself. So, yeah, I definitely do identify with her in terms of having difficulty making friends and stuff like that when I was a kid. And so that, yeah, definitely, for sure.
Well, that's great.
Would
See,
you?
that's another thing that helped this show to appeal to kids, right? I mean,
Would
Star Trek I
you?
know was more written for straight for adults, but as you
True.
can see, this I would say is more family oriented.
Yeah.
Even though they don't talk down or talk dumb to the audience, it seems to be a little more family oriented and based around the
I,
family. Obviously, which Star Trek is not.
I just
Even though I
want to
love
say
Star
though,
Trek, as you guys know, I'm not knocking Star Trek.
But Jill, would you agree that she is kind of a proto version of the nerdette princess, like a nerd girl we can look up to because of her
hmm,
guts, but also her personality and her heart?
hmm.
Well, so far, yes. I've only watched 6 episodes of Lost in Space. So I will know better once I've watched more.
This is
But
episode 7, actually.
but I know 7. Well, I mean,
That works.
okay, you're right. 7 episodes.
Close enough,
Excuse
yeah.
me. But I know she likes Shakespeare, and I know from this episode that she has a free spirit. She's not afraid of exploring. So those are some fun attributes in
I
a
think,
character in a sci-fi show. So I can't wait
You're
to hear more.
reserving
yeah.
judgment, aren't you? You're reserving judgment.
I just wanted to mention, I don't think
Yeah.
you had to be a female to enjoy Penny's character, because I was,
Yes.
when I was a little kid back when I saw this episode, and I totally identify with Penny. Like, I was really kind of a shy introvert back in those days. As hard to believe as that probably is now, but I was like a shy kid. I got bullied a lot. Because I was like the fat kid, and I had like one friend, and he was the skinny kid. So we were like Laurel and Hardy, I guess. But I totally identified with Penny, probably just as much as just about any. Well, I like the robot and Dr. Smith too, obviously. But
Well, so far they seem to have difficulty putting Penny together with her brother in terms
oh yeah,
of him either picking on her or she's following him or something. It just hasn't
there's
it
kind of a
hasn't made it yet.
sibling
Hasn't gelled?
rivalry kind of thing happening, I think.
Has not gelled in the script for you, Jill?
Not yet, no.
Okay. But I'll just say, we are Spartacus, we are Penny.
But I really did identify with Penny a lot. Like, maybe that sounds weird, I don't know, but I just thought she was a really fun character, and
I don't
was
think it sounds weird.
annoyed.
I don't think you have to be a girl to identify with it.
Well, I was
I
annoyed
just
that
figured maybe. Go ahead.
she
Sorry.
never got. I wish she had more screen time in a lot of episodes, but it is what it is. But and also, I was, she was like an older woman, right, to me back then, right? So I did have a huge crush on her. Like, I thought Penny was really cute, and Angela is a gorgeous. She even
Yeah,
young
she was
lady,
very
she's
pretty.
gorgeous here, right?
Okay,
So,
can we catch up on the chat real quick?
okay.
Yes, thank you, Gorilla.
Phantom Boomer says, "Hey Cap, hey Matt." Captain says, "Boomer, here's Hungry Boy's channel." Phantom Boomer says, "Penny, go play with Lassie." Hey there, Scogly, how's it going?
That's exactly what they did to her. Didn't they give her a chimp?
Right.
Scogli.
Yeah. Where is Debbie? Now you mention it, right? And hello, Scogli. Good to see you.
And yeah, I don't know what the hell this is supposed to be.
Looks like pancakes.
And hey there, Golfcast. Long time no
Hey.
see.
Good to see you, Hofcast. Glad you could join us. Tomorrow we're doing a little shop of horrors if you're into that sort of thing, Hofcast.
Yes.
And I have another note of interest here, which I had never known that I spotted in this book. Okay, well, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait till we get to that scene because I usually try to keep it in sync with the episode. So let's continue there, and I'll let you know when we get to the part that I was talking about. So here's where Will asks her, "Where'd you get the jacks?" For us old people, that used to be a game you'd play with these jacks you toss down and had a bouncing ball. I actually used to play that.
I know jacks.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I played that as a kid too. Gosh.
And marbles.
Oh, marbles. Yeah, I remember marbles. Yeah.
Yep, marbles and jacks. Jacks are probably made out of plastic these days. I imagine there's no way they're going to have. Anyway, you ever step on one of those things?
Oh, that would hurt. Yeah, because they were metal back in the day when I was.
Yes. A kid. So Jill, you mean right about them being plastic now?
Yes, you're right. Everything's plastic now. That's just
even everything. A Slinky. I mean, that is blasphemous.
Oh, what?
They do still sell the original metal Slinky, but yes, most of them are plastic.
Let's not talk about the horrible aberrations of Slinkies today. Let's know.
So here's where Will asks Penny about where'd you find. Well, she's just saying they're just little rocks, so neither of them quite realize exactly what they are yet.
Now, this is unbelievable to me that a little boy's not interested in rocks and where they came from. But all right, okay.
Well, especially being totally clear like glass, you think, well, what is this? This is unusual.
Well, it seems to me Will's just, dissing her again like he does through the entire episode, basically. So
Will's a little dick in this episode.
He really is a jerk. Yeah, I really didn't. I mean, usually I kind of like Will. He's usually a pretty good character, but he was a little jackass in this one.
Right on.
And that not in any way negative towards the actor. I'm sure he really liked it.
Oh no, of course not.
No, I hung out when I was smoking. I smoked with Bill Mooney. I'm not going to say a bad word about Bill Mooney.
You smoked with him. That's great.
What? You smoked with him?
Bill Mooney. Hell yeah! I gave him 3 of my cigarettes.
Wow.
Hell yes.
You got to tell us the story since you brought it up.
Yeah, I want to hear more.
No. Later on, we're getting late in this one. I won't share it with you guys. We'll do it like a little special 20-minute stream about hanging out with Bill Mooney and Mr. Ferrer, Miguel Ferrer, when they were the singers and the main musical guys for Seduction of the Innocent for a whole bunch of conventions. And I'll tell you guys about that, but I don't want to slow this down because we can get slowed down. But Bill was a great guy, and he didn't mind receiving a couple of cigarettes. He didn't mind a joke being given to him about his superhero on television career. We won't talk about that. Supervillain role. Miguel Ferrer was great too. Wonderful people, but we really have to focus on this episode because it is one of the best episodes of television ever made.
Yes, I completely agree. And thank you for sharing that much with us. So here's where Dr. Smith is the first one to notice that the rocks are translucent. And being a greedy man, I'm surprised he didn't pull out one of those little eye loops, the things that the jewelers use.
It's so accurate. That is actually what an uncut diamond looks like. It really makes everything believable at this moment.
It is, totally.
He does get the robot to test it, so he finds out pretty fast what it is.
Now I got a question here. Is that scratch going to show up anymore during the show?
No, but you could buff it out.
I imagine the robot's probably got a few replacement, heads stored away on the ship somewhere anyway. So, but that did bug me when Smith did that. I thought, how dare you do that to the robot?
They almost never did close-ups like that on the robot's head. That was so beautiful. I mean, I really appreciated seeing that as an art guy, because we almost always see the robot as a body shot, as what we call a mid shot or a medium shot.
Okay.
Well, not only that too, but if Joe, can you go back to that frame where he scratches the robot?
Yeah.
There.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
That's
fun to
also,
see
you
it
got to remember,
up
those are the
close.
robot's eyes on the left and the right. So that's right across his face.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
Oh.
even like, okay, it's like imagine somebody scratching you in the face saying, "Oh, I just wanted to test this rock here
I
and see
don't
what it
think I'd
was."
like that.
Right. But fortunately, the robot's not doesn't seek revenge. It's not that kind of robot.
Hmm.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So he does apologize to the robot for scratching, but of course he doesn't care. All he wanted to do is prove to himself that those are diamonds. As we know, diamonds can scratch glass, and I forgot to stifle my phone again. Sorry about that. Now that I got the email sent, I won't need the phone again. And now they're asking her about Mr. Nobody, and she says she hasn't really seen him yet. And of course, here's where Dr. Smith conniving is trying to figure out the first person in the whole episode actually interested to find out what Penny's been doing.
Well, yeah, but only for ulterior motives of greed.
Only for ulterior motives, right? And this is where the B plot and the A plot crosses and become integral together.
Yeah,
Integral.
it's great. Absolutely awesome.
And it's funny because Dr. Smith says, by coincidence, I have very little work today. Oh, really? What a surprise. And tell me, what day are you busy? But another thing is we see him really do a lot of manual labor in this episode. So when his interests are peaked, he'll do anything apparently, right?
Anything for diamonds.
Right.
Well, luckily Penny is smart enough to want nothing to do with Dr. Smith.
Yeah,
Right.
I really liked how she stands up to him here. She's just like puts her foot down and says, "Go away, go away. I don't want to hang around with you."
I
That
think at
was
this
great.
point she's getting tired of people talking down to her and condescending her because
Ah,
I think she thinks even if she tells him about Mr. Nobody, he's not going to believe her.
yeah, quite possible.
Guess I
mean,
was just getting ahead of myself in terms of technology. They hadn't discovered this yet, but diamonds are really good for adding to cutting tools. So I thought that could help in their mining.
yes.
I
Yes.
think
If you had been Penny in this series, the series would have lasted about 6 episodes.
I don't know. It may have lasted longer. We may have gotten more female centric episodes, which
what-
would have been ahead of the time at the time.
Well, yes, you're right, Hungry, because the main objective should be to get that ship back up in space.
Exactly. So it would have been 5 episodes, or it would have been 500 episodes, depending on how you would have been played as the character, right? Because, oh man.
Well, sure, especially with the electronics help from Will, and I've got programming skills, so together we
And
can
you
get that
would
thing
have been
going.
very good at organizing people into their various skill sets and not listening to the sociological bullshit around it, right?
I think
Yeah,
one of
right.
the first things
Not
I
interesting
would
to
do
me.
honestly if this was a real situation is I would tell Dr. Smith, "You want to eat tonight? You're going to work."
good plan. Oh, I just
Right.
want to mention, I think another motivation for Penny here standing up to Smith is that she's protecting her friend. Like
That's true.
she doesn't want Smith to actually discover him. So yeah, I think she's actually, just being a good friend there, defending Mr. Nobody.
And I think in hindsight, she kind of realized that Dr. Smith always makes a mess out of everything anyway. So probably
Yeah,
best
pretty
to
much.
keep him, out of the picture.
I mean, what evidence does she have at this point to trust Dr. Smith on anything?
None. Right, exactly.
But
So
Dr.
that's
Smith
what
is clever enough to realize that this friend of hers is helping her not feel lonely.
Yeah.
right. And he knows he realizes her weakness that she's lonely. So of course he's trying to act like a friend. And he's trying to talk to her as a friend, which he's not really her friend. And she's not completely done. She's not going to fall for it completely.
This is good. I just love how she stands up to him.
And I love it. You're just going to have to find somebody else to play with by yourself.
Yeah,
Saying that
that's
to Dr.
hilarious.
Smith, right?
That's a great line.
Material crystallized in the isometric system, says the robot. Of course, Dr. Smith is having him examine the rocks. Wish they had to program you with an unabridged dictionary.
Oh.
Why they had to program you with an unabridged dictionary? I can't believe it. We're in 2023 and we still don't have a robot this sophisticated. This is a shame. We have AIs and everything else, but we don't have a robot like this.
Yeah, I remember the moon landing. I thought we'd be way far ahead to where we actually are.
Well, we gotta make sure the robot's not gonna go kill us all first.
Yeah, that's why I don't know about having an AI on it. There'd be a
Yeah,
lot of safeguards built in.
it seems like they're working on that in the real world these days, aren't they?
Nobody
There's so much.
listens,
Right,
Robot.
nobody
there's so much going.
listens to Asimov. Nobody listens to Asimov.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And there's we're just seeing a fraction of what's actually going on behind the scenes. I'm sure it's a lot scarier than what we're even thinking.
Mhm.
Well, have you guys seen some of the videos of some of those robots that there actually
Yes.
exist now? It's frightening.
Yes.
It's like Terminator. And if
Yeah.
you pair that up with an AI intelligence, man, that's scary to think about the potential there.
Absolutely. Elon, are you listening?
No, he's probably not.
Elon's not
Yeah.
the one that's making them. He's the one
Yeah.
warning everybody.
Yeah. Hello, Elon. Say hello in the chat.
Yeah, really.
He's got nothing better to do, right?
Yeah.
So here we have Dr. Smith and the robot exploring. Penny was not willing to give away exactly who or what Mr. Nobody is. So Dr. Smith takes it upon himself to do a little investigating. And here's where he asks the robot to move the rock because he says that he's designed for 50 tons of pressure, which I thought was kind of cool. And there it is, you blundering bag of bolts. So there we get our first Smithism directed towards the robot.
And I like how the robot can't budge the rock here. Like he can't move it, right? Even with the 50 tons or whatever. The Mr. Nobody definitely wants to keep them out of the cave.
Right, that's another thing they don't mention until later on. Mr. Nobody actually has control over that entrance.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now we get the robot saying his famous line, "Danger, danger."
Yay.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the guy who did the voice of Mr. Nobody does come back in season 1. He voices Robbie the Robot for the episode War of the Robots.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I remember that one.
Oh, we'll be getting to that soon. That's one of my favorites. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, so danger, danger. Let me see here what I got. But yeah, here's another picture I wanted to share with you guys here. Do I already have it pulled up? Yes, I do. Let me close this one and show the right one. This is a little behind-the-scenes publicity photo that they on-set photographer took. And there we go.
Wow, that's
And right, and surprisingly, CBS allowed this, and it was in TV Guide at the time.
That's
So-
kind of creepy, to be quite honest.
It is, right. And they were just spontaneously just improvising on set when they did this, obviously.
Yeah,
It's a
Smith looks
publicity
like,
photo taken during the production
Ah.
of My Friend Mr. Nobody. Had little to do with the episode, but the set photographer couldn't illustrate excitement when the story involved a young girl's invisible secret friend. So bringing the show's villain for a photo op. And it says CBS sent this out to newspapers. So they did accept this as a publicity photo.
yeah, that seems pretty bizarre, actually. Like Smith looks like some kind of stalker or something there. It's very creepy looking.
I guess
Wow.
these days that might be a little more questionable, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised they actually let that out to the newspapers.
So here's where the robot is starting to out loud talk about his findings, and that's why Dr. Smith is trying to tell him hush up and be quiet and all this other good stuff. And all he's doing is dreaming of being rich, and that's why he mentions Fort Knox. And now we have Penny down there visiting her friend Mr. Nobody. And that's cool. She brought a book to read so you could learn more words. So I really like this, too, that he thought about that she wants to teach him a little bit more.
That was good, yeah.
And she knows he's just starting to learn, so she's brought a children's book.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I like though how she says this might be a little young for you. She tells Mr. Nobody because she's kind of thinking maybe it's a little too simple, but yeah, she did. I think that's why she brought the children's book so he could, learn something basic, right?
Oh wow! Just the dialogue in this scene It just breaks my heart every time. It just gets me so sad.
Hmm.
So sad. She's just. I mean, this is an intelligent alien, non-human intelligence that she has the temerity and the beauty and the honesty to engage with on a one-to-one level. And we just don't see this in science fiction on television anymore. We just don't see it.
And he's
Yeah. Well.
honest back with her
Yeah.
that he doesn't know what he's going to be either.
Yes, Jill. Yes. I
Well.
mean,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
it is so pure and it is so innocent. And we know up to this point that things are going to go wrong, but we're here for the ride anyway. But God, the tears are coming down my face. What's going on here is just so gorgeous and so wonderful. And I just wish we could get people to have the confidence to write like this again.
True. I just want to quickly mention some of my notes I took that kind of pertain to that. I thought that Penny's joyful innocence was extremely endearing in this episode. I thought it was a wonderful examination of the innocence of childhood. Being open minded, and also I thought it was just an incredible episode on the importance of having friends and not being lonely. And yeah, to me, this episode just fires on all cylinders in
Right
that
on.
regard, right?
All right.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Can we catch up on chat real quick?
Yes. Thank you, Gorilla.
All right. Lemon's waving at Squiggly and Hoff. Hoff's giving something to Lemon Pie.
Lemon. The lemon pie.
Squiggly says, you should hear what happens to humanity in the Warhammer universe when we came up with AI and then started relying on it.
Oh yeah.
Or reliance on artificial intelligence. It's not the cause of the 10,000 year age of strife, but our reliance on it has absolutely staggering consequences.
Right, which we're only basically seeing the forefront of right now. It's going to get a lot. Well, don't want to be too negative, but I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So we have her reading to Mr. Nobody, and also conversing back and forth, and this is where they're getting to know each other more, and they're basically bonding. Let's see here, and what I got here is. This is the scene two, isn't this the scene two where Dr. Smith starts talking to her? Trying to impersonate Mr. Nobody, if I remember right? Or is that later on in this episode?
Yes, this is the same part. She's first explaining what it means to die to the entity. And then Mr. Smith takes over the dialogue.
Mr. Smith.
Dr. Smith, excuse me.
That's okay. No, you're fine. You're totally fine. And so the story she's telling is about the ugly duckling, which we all know about. So that's kind of telling. That I guess she feels sort of like an outcast. Maybe that's a referral to the title of the book.
Wait, I got a question here. All the kids are pretty much teens, or not pretty close to being teens. I don't know how old.
Will's the youngest. I think they said. I think he's supposed to be 12.
Okay, so he's a tween. So that book is for like 2-year-olds. So why would that be on the ship?
Maybe it's her favorite, and she brought the books that she loves.
Okay.
If I'll give you an example.
Look,
If I was
but
going
she also reads Shakespeare, just to let you know.
Right. If I was going on a space cruise, knowing I'm never coming back to Earth, and they said grab 10 books that you would take with you, some of them would be some from some of my childhood, especially like my Ray Bradbury and all that stuff. If I'm going to Mars, I'm taking Ray Bradbury with me.
Oh,
and there's
just
sorry. Go ahead.
Welcome, Sean Crowder. But
Hey, Sean.
Says, AI will be the death of humanity. Sean Carter says, howdy, y'all.
Hello, Sean.
Lemon's giving something to Sean Carter. I have no idea what this little symbol is.
Fist bump. Fist bump.
Is that a fist?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess it's better than the middle finger, so.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Sean says I off. And Sean says driving, going to lurk mode.
Hey, Sean Carter.
Is that
I
on
think
your side or my side? That got the.
I think that's Jill's script, maybe.
Hey, oh, we're getting all Jill's secret code there.
Doomcock chat. Doomcock
Uh-oh.
chat. Yeah,
Oh,
it's okay.
oh.
Secrets out. Yes, Jill is a moderator, or what they call it, a wrench on Doomcock's channel. So
No, she's
anybody who didn't know that,
multitasking here.
It's
She's
Yep.
true.
she's listening to
Shocking.
she's listening to
News.
Doomcock while we're supposed to be talking about the episode.
No, I'm getting Sean Carter's link.
thank you for posting that. I thought I had that. If I
Well, you
don't have that
probably
in
do.
Stream
Yeah,
Elements, yeah.
Stream
Oh, Stream
just
Elements
posted
beat
it.
me to it.
Uh-oh. There you go.
Stream Elements like what? Oh, here it is.
And Hofcast says it is a fist bump, not a fist.
Oh my.
Oh yes. One of those is pleasant. The first one, I have to say, yes.
Oh,
The other
God.
one's
Hey,
not.
hey,
I think that's
each
going a
to
little
their own,
past
whatever.
PG.
If you want to be in the second category, there, go for it. I don't care.
Yeah, that's not my bag, yeah, but oh well.
Yeah, it's a little past PG, that one.
Yeah, no offense to people that are into that. So here we have, and then here's where Dr. Smith, I don't think at this point that he heard Mr. Nobody. I think he just heard Penny down there talking to herself. And that's why he's kind of mimicking Mr. Nobody's voice. And he's basically luring her over. And she immediately notices, of course, she's not stupid. So she notices the voice has changed. You think she would realize it's Dr. Smith, but not quite yet. And there we have.
Dr. Smith must be kind of an idiot to think he's going to fool Penny.
Right. And here we have, in fact, this is the area, the scene I was telling you guys that I was going to bring up when we got to that scene. This is it. It read better in the scene read better in the script. Director Stanley wasn't able to find a way to photograph the scene properly with the set and time restrictions. It is silly seeing Jonathan Harris just lying on the rocks, his face in the opening, but clearly in no danger as he cries out for Penny to save him, which we will see here. The script described it this way. Exterior fissure opening. Close-up shot of Smith clings to the edge of the fissure. His grip is slipping. Smith, help, help, somebody save me, help. Interior fissure. Smith continues to yell in terror as Penny runs in. Penny, Dr. Smith, what are you doing here? Smith, Penny, help me. Penny says, hang on, I'll be right there. She runs out toward the cavern. Exterior fissure. Smith hangs on for dear life as Penny runs in and grabs him, with much support and pulling from Penny. Smith said, easy now, be careful. Penny, it's all right, I'm holding you. There. Smith, oh no, farther away. Those rocks may give away. Thank you, my child. And now here's the note I want to give, which I had never known before. Part of the problem was the set. A bigger factor may have been Jonathan Harris's bad back. In an interview for the 2015 Blu-ray box set release of Lost in Space, Billy Mooney revealed that Harris always wore a back brace hidden under his costume. So that he actually did have a bad back. All those episodes where he said, "Oh, my delicate back."
Wow.
So
that's where the pain line came from. Then
the pain, all of it. Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't faking it. He was actually using his real life to build the character. Oh, that's excellent. I never knew that.
Yep. And that explains why, like for example, we'll get here after the he slips and he almost falls into the cavern, and which is what I was describing. And she runs around to pull him. That's why when they show him, he's not really in too much of a compromising position where he has a struggle to get up. He's pretty much just prone, lying on the rocks, and all she's got to do is slightly tug and he stands up. True. So it kind of reminds me of Darren from Bewitched. You know, they both had really bad backs, but they kept it off camera. Darren had a much worse problem, of course. Dick York.
Yeah, that was sad when he had to quit the show because his back was so painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more like when my mom would ask me to help her up when she was on the ground. So that's exactly what Penny does for
Did your mom have an injury, or was it just old age? Or
No. She's just I don't know. I have no idea.
She's being a lady. Help me up. That's totally.
I guess fine. I have no idea. I never asked.
Oh.
So here we have Dr. Smith saying it's all right. It's all right. No harm done, of course. He's trying to get her to forget about what him Basically, it's like he was caught in the act, basically being a peeping Tom, and he's trying to immediately get her to forget the whole affair. It's all right. It's all right. No harm done. Because now we know
Yeah.
where to drill a proper hole, don't we? He says. Now remember, he's just interested in the diamonds, everybody.
And Penny's very upset because she thinks that maybe she won't be able to get back in the cave because of Smith's antics there. So
Right. She's thinking maybe he scared Mr. Nobody away or that Mr. Nobody. Well, because she's realizes how sensitive Mr. Nobody is, I guess you could say.
ah,
So, of course, Dr. Smith decides he would like to drill for diamonds. So, the first thing he does is he figures now the next person to manipulate on my list will be Major West. So, he gets Major West to bring some drilling equipment and explosives with him to the site.
I gotta say, this is one part of the episode that kind of surprised me a bit because it's like Dawn actually, believes Smith enough to actually go and do this. Because
Yeah.
usually Smith, it doesn't seem like Dawn's in character here. Because usually he hates Smith's
Yeah,
guts.
usually Dawn doesn't give Smith any quarter.
Exactly. Yeah. So
But
this
the
is
only
one
the only
scene
little bit of
that
credit
seems a
I
bit
give it
off.
is the only credit that I give it is they do cover that is because Dr. Smith steals a bit of clay from Professor Robinson, who he hadn't shown that to Don yet. And he tells Don, look,
Oh,
this clay is very valuable for fuel.
right. Okay. That kind of makes more sense when I think about that. Yeah.
Yes, because later on, Professor Robinson asked Will, where's that clay? Have you seen that clay that I had? In fact, he said, I wanted to show it to Don, and he hadn't had a chance to yet.
Hmm.
And there he is insulting the robot. You, my stupid friend. You're going to be a steam shovel, a bulldozer.
Oh boy.
He's always talking about, by the way, in the series, converting the robot into something else as an insult. Like, I remember one time it was a leisure vehicle, and he said, even then you'll be substandard at that.
Yeah, the robot insults got pretty funny after a while.
Oh, and here's where she's being innocent, asking mom questions, and of course, mom's very busy, unfortunately.
This is a great line.
He said very few. Then, well, darling, I'm sure there are all sorts of mysterious forces. Of course, mom's not quite grasping on what she's talking about. Even forces with far more intelligence than we have.
Mom's
Of course, mom.
patronizing her totally here.
Grrr, bad Marine, bad.
Yeah, this scene always bugged me because she's being a terrible mother here. I mean, she's she thinks, of course, that Penny's just having a fantasy friend or imaginary
Well,
friend.
it's not. Yeah, exactly. She just doesn't understand. She's treating it as if it is an imaginary thing, and she is trying to foster that imagination at the same time without
True.
dismissing it, but also without respecting it.
Well, the thing is, when she
But if Dawn
tells,
had come back and said the same kind of stuff, if Dawn had done that, he would have been believed immediately. Immediately.
Yes.
Hmm,
But this is not
Yeah.
to say that kids sometimes don't have fertile imaginations, because that is,
well,
kids do
obviously.
have imaginary friends sometimes. But I would be, what's questionable is I can imagine having an imaginary friend, but not at Penny's age.
Yeah.
Maybe if she was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, she's a little bit too old. I mean, actually, Angela Cartwright was 13 when they filmed this episode, so she's
Which is about
definitely
right.
entering.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's around the age of her character because she's supposed to
Yeah,
be probably older than Will.
she's basically entering her teenage years here. So yeah, she's not a kid anymore.
Yeah, this is past the age of believing in Santa, so.
I would think so.
And another thing
What?
too is
What? You don't believe in Santa?
this
I was waiting
episode
for someone to do that.
this episode provided a plum role for Angela Cartwright, the first to put emphasis on Penny. At the time, the young Cartwright felt the pressure. She later admitted, "I remember looking at script and just seeing tons of dialogue." But I'm sure that she realized that was a very good thing. It's a very good thing.
Mr. Noodles. Oh, I hate this line.
This scene just I find devastating. I just thought, oh, when Marine condescends to Penny here,
Oh,
I mean, and Penny's reaction is absolutely priceless.
Well, it's funny because Penny pretty much says, That's just silly. She should have said, "Are you nuts, Mom?"
Well, she probably wouldn't if it was filmed today.
I know it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I just found this scene devastating. I just,
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's because of her age. They should have been more respectful of what she's saying.
I think so. Yeah.
But another, you guys got to remember another thing too is the episode would have been completely different if they from the very beginning believed her and said, "What? What? Tell us about it. Show us where it's at."
Oh, that
Then
would
we
have
don't
ruined
know.
it
We
all.
don't know. Well, we don't know if Mister Nobody would just say, "Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Mister Nobody. How you all doing? Can you introduce yourselves?"
Yeah, it would have been like a 5 minute episode, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, this scene just breaks my heart.
It had to be great for her, like I said, though, the fact that she came from the show Make Room for Daddy, which was an ensemble show. So she probably didn't get a lot of scenes in that as well. So I'm sure that every time she got a
Mm.
little bit more, she had to be very appreciative of it.
Well, I mean,
This
if
episode,
this was her favorite, I mean, there's a reason. I guess she did appreciate the great dialogue she had.
we, we himself, the producer, had hoped they could make this episode for $132,304. It ended up costing $175,386, exceeding the desired studio budget by more than $40,000.
Huh.
Stanley would not be asked back to Lost in Space, but
Oh.
did get a single assignment during the next TV season on Irwin Allen's The Time Tunnel. But why do they blame it on the producer? I mean, come on. It's not his fault, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always things in production that are going to come up where maybe you go over time or over budget. I mean, it just happens, right?
Exactly right. But I guess part of the blame. I mean, I got Irwin Allen was cracking down, but it's because you got to remember that CBS was only willing to pay, or yeah, CBS was only willing to pay so much. So anything that goes over too much over budget, it's eating out of the actual pockets of the producers of the show and the show itself.
Uh,
When this episode was screened for CBS, the self-appointed guardians of morality decided that John and Maureen Robinson were too affectionate. Never mind that the characters were married. Never mind that supposedly their children had come into the world in the traditional way. No, this married couple showed too much passion in their two on-screen kisses. In an age when married couples on television were shown sleeping in separate twin beds, and one could only join the other in a single bed if one was of his or her feet remained firmly planted on the floor. You guys remember that, right?
oh, I remember that rule. Yeah.
Right, two separate beds like I Love Lucy, and the only way one of them can sit on the other one's bed is if their feet are on the floor.
I remember the Dick Van Dyke Show used to have that too, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The mandate soon came down from the top. No more kissing. Irwin Allen has often been blamed for this, but many kisses were included
Ah,
when directing the pilot No Place to Hide. And we'll be covering that soon. And even a display of romantic and sexual interest between Don and Judy. It was not Allen who nixed the signs of physical affection, but CBS. After all, this was a series slotted in the family hour, targeting young viewers. Blasting monsters with laser guns were fine. Smooching was not.
I kind of
And
fail to
June,
see how a simple kiss is that bad.
I know. June Lockhart said, in the pilot, the writers were developing a father, mother, husband, wife relationship with the Robinson parents. Then the edict came down from CBS that Guy Williams was not to touch me in any way, not even to take my hand to help me down out of the spaceship. Someone at
Wow.
CBS thought that any demonstrative affection between the parents would embarrass the children watching at home. When our CBS representative came down to the set, I told him this, and he said, "That's ridiculous. I will go check on that." Well, he came back and said, "I can't believe it, but you're right. They don't want the parents showing any affection. So we had to show it with longing looks."
That just seems
Something
really
else,
weird.
something else that was bothering CBS. Dr. Smith was still coming off as too ruthless and even a bit creepy in the scenes involving the children. Who would trust a man like this around their children? The executives at CBS wouldn't. More changes were needed if his character was to remain, or at least,
That's the point.
yes, or at least have any on one-on-one scenes with the two youngest children. CBS very much wanted the character of Smith to remain. There we go. Oh, sorry. It's now going on to a different subject, but I wanted to cover that. Is like I was mentioning earlier, a lot of what we see about the way the show was shaped and formed was basically instructions coming from the network. I mean, we do see, and because the affection, the kissing, and all that, we it starts out fairly strong on that, and even here towards the end, we'll see Professor Robinson and Maureen holding hands. But the fact that the network came down and said no more of that—that's a shame.
That is a shame because I thought
Holding
that's one of
hands,
the,
that's crazy. That's the tamest thing ever.
and it's kind of one of the things that made the show believable, right? You know,
Yep. Well,
because
looking back on it now,
so
absolutely.
affectionate. Yeah,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
silly
Well, it was
network.
really sweet, and at least Maureen did something.
Yeah, I always thought it was sweet. Like I thought it was great to have a
Oh,
couple of central characters that actually were so much in love with each other. I thought it was very
Yeah.
sweet.
It just shows
Oh
that
well,
the censors and CBS just being nitpicking, saying, "Oh, this is a kids show, guys." I
yeah.
mean, it's a good thing they didn't do that with Star Trek, right? I mean, can you imagine
Oh,
her not
thank
kissing
goodness.
anybody? And
Jeez, I
so,
don't think we ever would have got Amok time.
no, we wouldn't. So here's the scene where that I mentioned earlier, where Professor Robinson asked Will, "Did you see that piece of clay that I had? It's gone missing. I was going to show it to Dawn."
Ah.
And he sees Will there polishing and working on different rocks here. And unfortunately, Bill and sorry, not Billy, uh, Will Robinson says, "I always get the names of the actors and the characters mixed up, especially when it's Bill and William." So uh, gets so sloppy sometimes. Of course, he's talking about Penny,
I think it's
but the,
gloopy.
oh, gloopy, yeah, my glasses. I had gloop
And
on
I
my
thought,
glasses. I had it
is
clear.
that actually a
Yeah.
word?
yeah, like gloopy.
Now-
Is this like a reference to Newtonian fluid? Is Will calling girls like ketchup or stupid or what?
I think this is kind of a reference to the well, instead of using the word silly, I'm glad they just didn't use the word sissy again. I mean, it wasn't
Wait.
enough for that. Go ahead,
Or-
Gorilla.
Well, could it be Goofy? And
No, I'm
it's an
pretty sure
error
it
in
was. I'm pretty sure it was gloopy when I listened to it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the subtitles are accurate.
Now let's catch up on chat real quick.
Thank
Hofcast
you.
is laughing. Lemon says hi, Sean. Jim, welcome, Jim. Welcome. Apparently, he has a new puppy video out.
Hello, Jim.
Sean Carter says, apparently Sean Carter got fisted in high school or in college, but only one
Oh.
time.
Oh, yeah, kids, next time, just stay sitting down. Don't stand up.
Yeah.
Not like I would know.
Jim says, I've been acting for me all day and now editing. Scopely says, gloopy.
Oh,
Oh
gloopy.
gosh.
And Phantom says, everybody knows that girls got cooties.
I know, but that's how kids were back in the day. So they're probably
Yeah,
still
I
like that. I don't
remember
know. I don't
cooties back
remember. I haven't been that age in many years, but I remember the words cooties coming up a lot in elementary school.
Oh yeah.
But I do remember also when I was a little kid, I didn't like to see men and women kissing. I thought it was boring. It was like, oh, come on. Can you get fast forward through the kissing scenes? So in a way, I kind of can understand CBS's point of view. Because now we're adults and we're like, oh, yeah, we actually appreciate that. We like it. It's too bad we didn't see more. But they were looking at it through the eyes of a kid. It's like, oh, come on. We don't want to see mom and dad kissing. We don't want to see that. That's all, mushy. And so that's just my interpretation of maybe what they were trying to say.
Makes
So
sense.
here's where if Penny asks asks Will if he knows where Dr. Smith is, and he says no, but he was with Dawn, of course, as he's going to bed, and they're blasting. So it's like, okay, that all the red flags are going off for Penny. So she realizes she needs to rush to the rescue if she wants to save her friend, Mr. Nobody. Yeah, that's where he says they're carrying the drilling stuff, blasting. And I'm really surprised too. I can understand for the plot and motivation, but you think Dawn would say, "No way, I'm going to bed. We'll do this tomorrow." But Dr. Smith actually has Dawn working on this late into the evening.
Yeah,
here we have
it didn't seem like Dawn would have done that to me either, really.
right, unless he's doing this, which they could have added the line that he wanted to do this for the professor and surprise him and say, "Look, we found all this fuel overnight."
Mhm.
Maybe to get it on his good side, kind of maybe. But of course,
be.
they don't mention that. Because I can understand his interest in trying to find a good fisher where they can get fuel from. And give me your bag of explosive pellets. Just take it easy. Of course, Dr. Smith immediately wants to throw all of them down there. He doesn't care. And he even knows Penny comes in and out of there, but and I guess he's assuming that she's home inside the saucer. And as they're talking about how much explosives to use, Penny's running back to try to warn Mr. Nobody, and she tries to move the rock. And if you guys remember before, all she had to do was use one hand to move it, and now she's having a struggle. So at this point, there's already something going on with Mr. Nobody. But he does finally open up the fissure and the cave and let her in. And I think he's asleep because he doesn't respond at first. And she has her repeat a few times, I'm sorry about what happened. And I remember Don and Dr. Smith are right above her. Sorry, go ahead, Gorilla.
Well, I was going to ask, on the cave wall, there's all those diamonds. Do you think that those diamonds somehow give him energy?
Well, they mentioned cosmic force earlier.
What?
It's possible. But they mentioned cosmic force earlier.
But the bean,
So I'm
isn't
not
the
sure.
bean the cosmic force? Not the
That's possible.
diamonds?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The being is from the cosmic. I'm not sure if I think the diamonds are just happen to be there.
Yeah, I think Mr. Nobody is the cosmic force, basically.
You know what? I think there was a moment where Don says that he says, "I sure would like to see the surprise on everybody's faces."
He is. Yeah, that's right. He does say that. He does, which is good. That's good. That does explain a lot of why he's going through all, especially putting up with Dr. Smith through all this. So here they are setting the explosion. Dr. Smith, when Don goes and hides behind the rock, Dr. Smith grabs the last few explosives out of the bag and tosses them in there for good measure, even though he'd been warned. Don told him that it would pretty much destroy the whole area if he did that, but that's not going to stop him. And now we have
an idiot.
right, and Penny's down there trying to apologize to Mr. Nobody. But she's also trying to warn him that she knows what's going on and that something's going to happen. But she doesn't know it's going to happen right now. She's actually telling him that it's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And then we have Dr. Smith and Don there with the explosive charges, and he's getting ready to set off the detonator. And of course, she's still pleading with Mr. Nobody. Oh, please, won't you listen? And now we get the explosion. Definitely no shortages of pyrotechnics on this show, so I appreciate that. So now we have the explosion with Penny down below, and we get the cave in and all these rocks raining down on her. And this is where the scene that I mentioned earlier, where she falls and hits her head against a rock.
Oh God, I'm crying.
I'm guessing these rocks were made out of styrofoam.
I hope
so. There's a chance. There's a chance they may not have used real granite when they tossed it down on her.
Yeah, we didn't want to knock Angela out in real life.
Hey, you may not have. Some of us might have.
Hey, well, the good news is
Pop, do not anger the innocent monster. Never anger the innocent monster. And they did it here. Big mistake. Big mistake.
Well, what's good about this is at first it's confused because it's like, why aren't you moving, Penny? Penny isn't moving.
It's killing
me. And then he goes, go ahead, Jill.
He's using the knowledge that Penny gave him about what it means to die.
Yeah, I love the way that Mr. Nobody recites the lines that Penny told him earlier in the episode. Right?
I'll give him credit for that.
That was really great. Great writing there.
Please move. Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Right. And here's where Mr. Nobody is pleading with her, and of course she's out cold. So, and here we have the blast site afterwards, and the extreme wreckage. So Don was right. That was way too many explosives. It even knocked out Don and Dr. Smith momentarily, but of course Dr. Smith is there ready to go look. And then that's when Don notices that the extra explosives are moving from the bag. And lying, conniving Dr. Smith says, well, you left the explosions, the explosives in the bag, and maybe the explosion knocked them loose and they rolled away. And it's like, oh, okay.
You know, the one good place, phaser rifle there, nobody would know. Nobody but you will know.
That's what I was thinking. I pushed Dr. Smith in the hole and say, I don't know how you fell in the hole. I don't know what happened.
Hey man, he put extra rocks. He put extra explosives in there, and it caved in, and he was stuck. He got caught in the cave in. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Next. So here's where Don says, "I've had enough." But this is going to take. In fact, he says something like, "It would take a bulldozer a couple days or a couple weeks to clear up the site." And he says he's going to head back to the spaceship. And Dr. Smith says, "I'll come with you." And he says, "Well, brother, you better run if you want to catch up with me." He says, because at this point, I don't think Don has much patience. Don figures the whole thing's a bust. They remember now they were digging for that certain clay, and he figures that's a complete failure, and they wasted all day and night. But as
I
you can
think
see by
Don,
Dr. Smith's face, he considers this a success.
I think Don kind
Go
of
ahead.
figured out at that point too that Smith was kind of playing him for a fool, right? So
I think so, right?
yeah. Oh, here we
There
go
we
with
go.
the kissing again.
One of our last, yeah. Enjoy it while it lasts, kids, because we won't see that in many more episodes.
Yeah, they were probably disappointed when that edict from the network came down. It's like, hey, we
God.
like kissing.
Yeah, can you imagine? This is the 60s where they say no kissing, no holding hands, compared to now where they're taking their clothes off and doing ungodly things on G-rated television. It's like, oh
I
my
can't believe
goodness.
that they wouldn't even let him hold hands. That's kind of weird, really.
Yeah. So here's where Mr. Nobody realizes that Penny's not getting up and is assuming that she's dead. And that's when Mr. Nobody, who was benevolent up to this point, decides to get very upset, and he's going to teach them a lesson that they'll never
Yeah.
forget. Of course.
Yeah, this ending is amazing.
It is. It's great.
Yeah.
And according to the book, they had to keep the budget down. I think they still did a good job as far as visual.
Oh, I love the
did.
robot here in this last scene. The robot is awesome.
Well, up
Awesomely
until
cool.
this point, I didn't know how much this entity encompassed, whether it was just part of the cave and the, because I knew it affected the plants around the cave and the water, but I thought it was a much smaller being, and this is where the being grows.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think,
And also those explosions also released it. Remember that we'll get into that too. So not only is it growing, but it's at this point leaving that area of the cave.
I also think that it was Penny's friendship that caused Mr. Nobody to grow, as an entity, to develop and become much bigger than he was, because he was lingering in the cave for thousands of years, right? Kind of
Yes.
not really knowing what he even was. But Penny's, friendship, made him sort of, develop and sort of fulfill his destiny in a sense.
And now he's encompassing the thunder and the wind and even more.
Oh yeah,
And what I
like he
thought-
was just controlling the plants and the lake before, but now he's controlling like miles and miles around.
Right. And this is what I was going to ask you guys your opinion on this is, okay, so basically he starts bringing down like a thunderstorm. Everything starts shaking. And you can hear Mr. Nobody's voice. Can you go back to that last scene, girl? Jill? One more. Where she'll and one more. There. Okay, so at this point, everything's starting to shake. And you can hear voiceover of Mr. Nobody says, "You hurt Penny," as everything's going on. But nobody prefers hearing the voice. All Don says is, it looks like an earthquake. So I'm wondering if they hadn't, is the voice in Penny's head only, or they hadn't, do you think they would say, and who was that? What's that voice coming from? I don't know. What do you guys think?
The hurt in Mr. Nobody's voice is so much of an impact upon our hearts as we're hearing this as little kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
My God. I mean, it's just raw emotion, raw friendship, raw outrage.
Yeah.
Right. And even in the next slide, like Jill, if you show the next slide there, where "I will destroy you." What is it? They still don't refer to the voice. That's where he says, "I think it's an earthquake." And you think one would say, "Who is that? What voice is that?" I don't know.
Perhaps it's only Penny that can hear the voice, really.
That's what I'm wondering. So would it have made any difference if she'd have brought someone to the cave and tried to say, "Hey, this is Mr. Nobody," and it was only in her head?
Well, maybe if she'd introduced someone else to the entity, maybe the entity would have made itself, would have revealed itself to another person.
Maybe a child like Will, if he was a little more open to what was going on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, hungry boy. Oh, sorry, I thought you had something to say.
So I'm just saying, Don is too butt-headed to hear the emotion of Mr. Nobody. Okay?
Yeah, he is kind of.
Don is he's the necessary counterbalance, but he's basically a butthead for the entire series. There's no way he has the sensitivity to even vaguely hear what Mr. Nobody has to say. There's no way.
But it could be also that the entity only shares its thoughts or voice with whomever it wants to.
I
With
hear
someone
that.
with someone
why
like
would
Penny that it trusts.
But why would you share yourself with Dawn, Jill? Why?
Yeah, I always kind of wondered what Judy saw in him, to be quite honest.
Well, remember now, Maureen said in an earlier episode, or Don, when Maureen was talking to Professor in the Hungry Sea, she said, "I guess there's not much of a playing field." So
Well, that's true.
when you, yeah, I mean, you could put,
Right?
I kind of feel
when they're,
sorry for. Yeah, I feel sorry. Always felt sorry for the kids. It's like, geez, I mean, they're not going to have much of a social life, are they?
no,
You know.
no, but they understood that when they undertook the mission.
I guess, but they thought they'd get to Alpha Centauri and other families would follow. So
Yes, that's another thing they were thinking. Well, they were supposed to make it to Alpha Centauri and then send a signal back somehow and let them, hey, we made
exactly.
it. And that's when they send more. But
Yeah.
what's interesting about this scene is when the storm kicks in and Professor Robinson says, I'm going to start putting away the equipment. And then he does. He walks off camera. Then when it shows the storm kicking getting even worse, it shows Maureen come out the door and say, John, I can't find Penny. And then when she says that, there's no John anywhere. It doesn't show him reacting. So then it cuts back to Dr. Smith and Dawn running back towards the campsite. Dr. Smith getting on his knees and picking up, because rocks and diamonds are raining down on them. And it shows Dr. Smith getting down on his knees and grabbing a handful of these diamonds. And this is when Dawn says, get up, let's go. And then he pretty much picks up Dr. Smith and forces him to come on, let's go back to the ship. Then when it goes back to the ship and cuts back to this, now we had suddenly Professor Robinson is back, and we have Maureen struggling with the storm, and he's trying to get her to go back inside. Sorry about that, guys. So maybe when
I did also like that Judy tries to save her sister, even though she doesn't really get very far.
Yes, she does. And here's where the robot is doing an environmental analysis. But the robot is hesitating, I think, because the data is inaccurate, and even the robot doesn't quite believe what its data says. So that's why when I keep saying Bill, that's why when Will Robinson says, "What is the answer to the report?" the robot delays it, and it says, "That's stupid." Well, first he says, and then he mimics once again Dr. Smith's voice, and says to give him the analysis. And even then, the robot still doesn't quite talk about what's going on. And here's where we get a description, according to the robot, of what Mr. Nobody is.
I would have thought by now that they would have reprogrammed the robot to not only respond to Dr. Smith's voice after discovering that.
Yeah, definitely that would have been called upon already, right? And not only that, any of us who have any experience with programming would say, okay, not only are we programming this to interact with our voices, but to not interact with Dr. Smith. We want the robot to completely ignore Dr. Smith, right?
Totally.
Well, once again, this series would have been totally different if Jill was Penny, but we can't have all the wishes for fishes. We can't.
No, well, there's also a Penny in Inspector Gadget.
Yes,
I need brain.
Inspector Gadget, but we can't go there right now, Jill. We can't.
No, but it's
That's
interesting how she had,
Penny.
Penny did have a ponytail. I'm wondering if that was influenced by this Penny, because she was smart. She had the ponytail, and she solved a lot of the mysteries. So I would not be surprised.
But I love at this point where we've got all the dust in the air. It is visually, especially for 1960s television, it is believable. We can invest in the moment plus the emotion of the moment, both visually and emotionally. It's just one of the best crafted pieces of television we're ever going to get.
Oh, yeah. I love this ending. The storm feels so completely real. Like just totally real.
When you were a kid, did you feel like the room shaking because we were so emotionally
I probably did. And I just love the robot sending out the laser bolts. Like,
for me,
cool.
For me, I was really, really worried about the family. You really understand the isolation of where they're at and how these dangerous forces could really wipe them out in no time at all.
Exactly.
Well, I was worried about the fact that the family did not understand Mr. Nobody, and Mr. Nobody did not understand the family, and that he might accidentally kill them.
Well, he
Exactly
was
right.
not accidentally. I think he wanted to kill them
He was so
in his
angry.
anger, right?
I think I think he was lashing out, but he wasn't really focusing. He didn't know where to focus it. He was just lashing out. I think.
He's a kid. He's a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's justifiable. You look at a toddler with the power of cosmic magnitude. You cannot blame this character at this moment. You can't. And they were the wrong ones who did the wrong thing towards this creature and towards Penny. And it is just a confluence of bad decisions that lead
Yes.
up to this moment. And it is almost Shakespearean in its scope, even though it's a television series that is supposed to be kind of for kids, kind of for adults, but it really goes the whole hog. It gives us everything. It pulls no punches. And emotionally at this point, my God, it's like getting belly blows in the boxing ring.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Jackson Gillis should have won an Emmy Award for this script. Really,
Right
he
on.
deserved it. He deserved it.
Take your filthy diamonds.
Right. Even Dr. Smith gets his comeuppance or his realization and tosses the diamonds in just the direction of all the wind. And
Well,
says,
when
"There,
I
take 'em
when
back."
I heard that line, I knew that I heard it from somewhere, that it was a literary reference. So this is a partial quote from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens.
Oh.
I'm prepared to sacrifice myself. It's a far, far better thing that I do. Here, take back your filthy diamonds.
Thank you, Jill. Excellent.
Wow, that's really cool. Wow.
See, kids, that's what literacy does for you. Many advantages.
Yeah, well, I imagine Jackson probably intended that to put that line in too. He was probably aware of Dickens, right? So yeah.
Yeah, back in the days where writers used to read books, huh? Imagine that.
Yeah.
Instead of watching SpongeBob SquarePants or Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty references lots of cool science fiction novels. I know I'm in the minority.
No, I used to, Jill. I used to like the earlier seasons of Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
but
me too.
It just seems like
all
the writer. Yeah, it just seems like the writers that they've been pulling from that are just really, really inexperienced. I'd have to say, to put it nicely, because what they've been putting out is just shameful. So I'm thinking, whoever the actual people who wrote the really good part of Rick and Morty, they haven't been picked up by any of the studios yet, because we're getting people that are like I have to once again reference the writer of She-Hulk. I mean, there's no way that person could have written any of those Rick and Morty episodes, the good ones talking about classic references. That's just not possible.
She came later on, Pop.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, you have the original like up to 6 series episodes, people, and even when we were on Clobby's channel discussing the Orville, there are people who were there at the beginning, and then there are people who are like, "Hi, hire me," and they wrote the "Hi, hire me" people are the worst writers.
Or you mean the people that said "hire me" or "I'll sue you"? Right. Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that, but I'm glad you did.
Okay, I have to say this.
I don't know about any of this.
Well, okay, I'm gonna mention this. Okay, there used to be a parody show, and I remember this is gonna be a quote from a TV show, not me personally. Okay, everybody heard of the old show Baywatch? Well, there was a short-lived, very, very hilarious parody called "Son of the Beach" that was on, and it was like a parody of Baywatch. And everybody was beautiful and good looking. The women were fantastic. They had excellent bodies. They were all bikinis. All the men were built like Arnold Schwarzenegger or big old muscle bound and all this kind of stuff. And one of the episodes is they were standing on the beach, and this big heavyset black guy runs up to them and goes, "I'm fat and I'm black, and you better hire me or I'm going to see you." And they said, "You're hired." And that was back in the 90s. So it's like, yeah, that's exactly his back line. He goes, "I'm fat and I'm black, and I can't swim, and you better hire me or I'm going to sue you." And they said, "Hired," as a lifeguard. I remember, that's not me saying that. That's a quote from a TV show. For a beach, right? A lifeguard.
Wow, that's pretty
hilarious.
Right.
So it's like I tick off all the boxes, and this is like the 90s when the show came out.
Or to be more generous than you, I'll let you be the bad guy. Like, you be bad cop, I'll be good cop. Okay, just for a moment.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, for She-Hulk, you know, the She-Hulk writer comes from the Rick and Morty stuff, but you have the Rick and Morty guys who can make you laugh, and the Rick and Morty people who can't make you laugh. So who are going to hire for a comedy show? The person who can't make you laugh.
Right.
Good.
It's like, okay, yeah, get her out of here. These last few episodes haven't been very good. Yo, you got a new job? Wonderful. See you later. Don't let the door hit you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Like hire people that can't write comedy to do a comedy.
And people who never wrote, this is going on all the time. This is now, we're going to have to worry about this with the Fantastic Four. People who have only written like, oh my God, I do a little teenage comedy thing where people are worried about their Instagram, who are then going to be writing hardcore science fiction comic book material. Oh, brilliant. That is the perfect way to go.
It is phenomenally brilliant. We're getting Mila Kunis as Ben Grimm. I mean, you can't get better than that. I mean, come on.
Even if that's a joke, that's their bluff, okay? Because then that won't be real, and then we will get to. I mean, okay. This is like doing a new version of Lost in Space and hiring someone from How I Met Your Mother to play Dr. Smith. That is the level.
Oh, so you haven't seen the new Lost in Space?
Don't get me started.
Yeah, because no offense to people, that's just it. I don't want to offend anybody who likes the new Lost in Space, but we have listeners. We have listeners out there who were introduced to the new one before the old one.
Oh,
that was me. I saw season 1. I saw season 1 with the Netflix Lost in Space. But you know, it wasn't the worst thing ever. It was just the last episode that was really woke, and the first 9 were just weird.
Well, I have to ask then. I hate to break it down to something so simple, and I don't want you to. I want you to be honest. I don't want you to give your answer because you're afraid of what we think. Which show do you personally like better, that you enjoy
this
yourself?
One, obviously, because this one gives me a whole lot more to enjoy in terms of the way the story's paced.
Thank God.
I've always preferred episodic over the story arc kind of serialized structure.
Right. So, okay, I have to ask this. Do you prefer the Dr. Smith and the robot in this more than in the new series?
Yeah, but I will admit that they did kind of get a female actress who kind of looks like this guy.
I didn't think about that. That's funny.
Wow.
She does.
Okay, that sounds kind of bizarre.
Parker Posey as Jonathan Harris as Dr. Smith.
Oh, jeez.
I love Parker Posey and I love Jonathan Harris, but please do not equate the two, please. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll make this fast because in the first episode of the new series, Billy Mooney plays Dr. Smith, and she steals his identity.
Okay.
So. Right, so that's how she like in Hollywood these days, the name is nothing but a label, and they can put it on anybody, right?
Seems like it.
Right, but Pop, I have to back up Jill here for one moment, and I think you'll agree with this. At least they had the guts, as much as I despise the new series, the Netflix series. Okay, the Parker Posey Dr. Smith was a sociopath, just like the original Dr. Smith. They did back that up.
They did.
No morals,
absolutely.
No ethics, just survival, but then learning to have emotions towards other people. That I agree with, that I can back up. But aside from that, oh, Jesus, let's just stick with the black and white season 1 in the 1960s, please.
Well, not only that, though, but in this show, I consider the robot part of the family, and I didn't get that jibe from the new series at all. It was totally alien.
The robot, like a member of an alien.
It was like, I know.
Garbaggio, to quote Clawby, Garbaggio pizza. The robot here is a human, in a de facto human, because it was created by humans and now learning to be with us. And in this episode right here, look at the shot you're showing here. This is
fantastic.
About defense of the family. And even though the robot is in the wrong, he cannot possibly know that. He cannot possibly know.
No, he's just following orders. That right? They send him out there against the cosmic storm and says fire in all directions.
He doesn't understand that the storm is Mr. Nobody. He doesn't understand that. So the robot is a victim. Nobody is a victim. And this is a show. This episode has the guts to say it's all going wrong, but just stay with us till the very end. Give
Well,
us
at this point, right? At this point, even though the robot's in danger, like we've seen before and we'll see again, to them he's still a tool. So that's why they send him out into danger because that's their defense.
Us, the viewer, he's not. To us, he's a living,
No.
breathing creature.
Right, like oh, poor robot. No, I know exactly because we've seen this, and we tend to bond very quickly with the robots.
Yes.
Faster than the family does, which kind of makes sense.
The way the robot is written as the series goes on, he does seem like a almost human, like in his characteristics, right? And we do bond with him. I mean, I love the robot. He's awesome.
The robot is what we want AI to be, but we know it will not be.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we have no doubt, and we know that robot would never hurt the Robinsons. We just know that, and we never have to worry about otherwise. And that's one thing about these days that you can't trust.
But even when I was 6 years old, I was sitting here at this point in the episode thinking, if the robot had full knowledge of Mr. Nobody, the way we had as an audience, full knowledge of Mr. Nobody, he would not be, he would be refusing the orders. He would be informing the Robinsons of what was going on and trying to help bring about a better result. But we can't have that because that's the way the script works.
Well, you got to have a climax. This is 60s, so you got to have that battle at the end.
And I think we're getting close to my favorite line of the whole episode coming up soon here.
And apparently this is where we see that the robot is remote controlled, where Dr. Smith is giving him controls over that
God
transmitter.
I might start
crying. Penny's coming to the rescue of the family, trying to convince Mr. Nobody that I love them just like I love you. Because right now
she's going out there, even though she could be killed. And God, my eyes are getting watery.
Those two lines just rip my heart out every time. I can't get through this scene without tearing up. I really can't. It's Penny's genuine love that saves the day.
And bless Mrs. Cartwright for totally owning this.
Oh yes.
On film.
I
mean, there's nobody else who could have done this way. Nobody else.
So powerful. She's absolutely brilliant here.
I need a tissue. You guys talk. I'm gonna mute.
I'm having a hard time talking. I'm choking up here.
Here's where she explains to Mr. Nobody about love, and she says she loves the family. Right? She loves the family. She loves Mr. Nobody, and she says that's why I love you. Mr. Nobody says I love you, but at this point, sweet. Because of the blasting of the underground cave, he's been released. So we have where he basically is heading off into the cosmos, a child into the cosmos, and he's got a lot to learn.
I just love it. I just love this ending.
A very powerful entity. And that's what they wonder. They say, what exactly is the cosmos? They still haven't mentioned if they heard his voice or not. But this is the point where I think they're piecing together that Penny had something to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. See, I was wondering why Mr. Nobody didn't simmer down once he realized that Penny was okay when she got up and she moved as he was waiting. But he was already on his rampage at that point.
Yeah, he was focused on the family, I think.
Yeah, so
yeah.
So that's why Penny had to talk Mr.
Jill,
Nobody down.
Horta mode. Like, I mean, he was defending Penny the way the Horta was defending her babies, okay?
Yeah. Right.
Well, this is the part where I think that everybody actually hears the voice at the end. I think they do.
I think they do. At the last few seconds here, I actually do think, because they obviously see it up in the sky leaving the planet to go venture out into the universe. So, but I do think I agree with Jill. I think they do hear the voice right at the end here. God, it's such a powerful scene.
It would have helped if they would have said, "We're sorry, Judy." I mean, Penny, we should have believed you.
Yeah,
but I think that's pretty much. I think that's pretty much shown. And you notice Will says, "Oh, my robot." You notice that Will said that, so Will's already pretty much taken over there. See, look at that.
Yeah,
and another heartbreaking, devastating scene. When you're a kid and you see this, you're like, "Oh no, no."
Yeah, the robot's taken a
Oh.
beating in a few episodes so far.
Yeah. Can we
Which
catch
is
up on
his
trade
duty, I
real quick?
guess.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry. Thank you,
Poor robot.
Gorilla.
Lemon Pie said, "Hey Jim." Phantom Boomer says, "Damn it, Jim." And welcome, Oiler Greg. Welcome.
Hello, Oiler Greg. Good to
And
see
Phantom
you.
Boomer says, "Howdy," or to Oiler Greg. Then Oiler says, "Hey Phantom."
And see, we have here. Will says again, "Oh my robot." So yeah, Will's already very, very, very close to that robot at this point. And I think it's
Even
excellent the
though I
set
tried to
design,
destroy him 2 episodes ago.
right? But the prop department, the fact that we know as adults now looking back that it's a suit with a guy in a suit, but it's an excellent job making it look like a mechanical device with inside moving parts and very intricate and detailed. So I love this.
Yes, and also, by the way, bloody expensive. Look at all that. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
This
sure
is
that
where
was all
Miss-
scrap material.
Well, no offense to you guys, but I've probably cried more about the robot than I did for Penny. But no offense.
Oh!
Offense taken.
God, when I was a
I'm
kid,
kidding,
it's like
Pop. I'm
having
kidding.
the deal when you're a little kid with schoolyard bullies. What day you didn't pass, you wish you had the robot standing next to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this end part is weird. If Mr. Nobody is a galaxy now, how is he transmitting his voice?
That's what I'm wondering. Okay, Jill, maybe that's how they heard it. Maybe they can hear it over the radio receiver.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just it's sorry, it's a stretch. But this is where Penny asked Don about the cosmos. And of course, Don's a mechanic. He doesn't know, or a pilot. He doesn't know anything about that stuff. And he even admits that there's a lot of things I don't know. So at least he's being honest about that. Basil says, "Hi guys." All right, Basil's here.
Hey,
Sorry, Basil. We're just getting close to the end of the episode. Sorry, Basil. But I hope you watch it on the repeat. I think you'll enjoy it. It was fun. It was a great episode to cover.
Mr. Nobody, he's becoming a beautiful spiral galaxy. It's gorgeous.
Looks like a Milky Way, I guess.
Well, isn't that line where she says the caterpillar turning into a butterfly?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm
My
surprised Mom didn't say yes, honey. Whatever you say.
It's just beautiful. It's,
After
it's,
everything
such
else.
such a poetic ending here. I just love it.
God, I'm gonna need so much comfort food after this.
Oh man, I'm getting really choked up emotionally here. And Angela's just so sweet.
Goodbye, Penny. Goodbye.
And her
That
only
last
friend.
shot,
It's like, okay, there goes
beautiful.
her only friend.
Beautiful.
Right, and they had Will lose his friend too, but look, he's back already.
Yeah, fortunately, this is early
Yeah.
enough in the series where Dr. Smith knows how to repair the robot. He'll lose that knowledge eventually. And of course, Will's happy. Hey, it's all fixed. What's that? Just a necklace. You know how girls are with useless stuff. And of course, he's talking about a necklace with those big old diamonds on it.
Jeez, Will being a little sexist again.
He
My.
is. Oh my
That's
God.
nasty.
Well, us, looking down, at this, we would say, well, now, diamonds are not just for girls. There's many, many useful, and I go on the list of all the things that they're useful for.
That's
Like
right.
drills.
Right. I thought they
Yeah.
could use it for their mining, but I guess in the 60s they hadn't started doing that yet.
Oh boy.
Well, in
Well, they
Australia,
could even use the lasers to make a focus.
in Australia, we had diamond drills. Yeah, we needed.
Yeah.
them.
Well, they could
Well, we had
use-
diamonds. We had diamond styluses on our record players.
Well, they could use the
That's
diamonds
right.
to make like a focus light, like if they position them just right, focus the beam of light even. Especially
Well,
when
that's
they
true.
get, especially when they do that slingshot around the sun, which I don't know if they'll bring that back again.
Oh my God, Dr. Smith looking at those diamonds there, it's like how I look at modern Marvel comic books.
Right.
And here's the iconic line.
Oh,
Oh.
the pain.
And this is not the last time we'll hear this. Thank goodness.
Oh, we hear this many times.
Oh,
And
there's
meanwhile,
my favorite episode.
Oh,
Right.
and we're into fifth dimension ones next, I
Right.
think.
unbeknownst to Dr. Smith, apparently he's being monitored very closely by a strange alien
uh-oh.
force from another galaxy.
Bill's gonna love this one. I really do.
With creepy alien hands.
Seriously, like right straight out of Outer Limits.
Right. Right. And I love the lighted up gumdrops underneath those hands.
My mother, stepmother, used to
Yeah.
have one of those in her living room.
Really?
It was glass. I remember she had one, and I always remember from this episode. And I don't know what it was for. I don't know if you're supposed to stick candles in it or what, but she had one on the table.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
But this was a wonderful episode, and we followed up with the next one. Oh my God. I hope you're going to be willing to have me on the stream for the next one, Pop, because this is one of my top 3 Lost in Space episodes. I love this one. Oh boy.
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
had some very strong
Okay,
episodes.
well,
in season
all right.
one.
Let's cover that really quick while we're speaking of it. All right, bear with me, guys. It takes a second.
There you go.
Stop them! Can't you stop them? What's that? John, look!
Anti-human. Destroy now.
Oh God, I love it. I love
Looks
it.
fun.
And there we go.
Oh,
just gotta-
oh.
I just gotta say, does that spaceship look like a big booby in a way?
No, it
I
looks
thought it was like
a
an
big-
eyeball.
It's
Okay.
an eyeball contained.
Don't
in-
let it fool you, PvP.
I kinda wonder-
Booby ship.
I kind of wonder how they got. I kind of wonder how they got that one past the sensors on the network. Actually,
Oh,
I
It's
think it
a
was an
little bit
eye.
risque.
Right, and trying to be clean about this, but I think it's
Okay,
an
I'll
eye
go with
because
an eye. I'll
it's
go
an
with
eye
an eye.
because it didn't droop.
Well, it's the same thing. How did that big rock and What Little Girls Are Made Of get past the sensors in Star Trek? Same.
Oh, Jill. Oh, nice.
Ah, yeah.
But
Oh,
this
well, it's
coming
all fun.
episode is brilliant. I mean, it's I like it as much as the episode we reviewed tonight, but it's a very different kettle of fish. It does have very much the same emotional elements from a different perspective, focused on Will. No
I'll be right back.
spoilers. No spoilers, but it is much more really dark science fiction. It's much closer, as Pop said, to The Outer Limits, and that's, I think, why I love it so much.
Well, it's more like the standard trope of the bad aliens too, right? Like, you know.
It's so creepy, PvP. It's so creepy. There's like so much science fiction horror before we even said the term science fiction horror involved with it. I mean, floating heads with no mouths.
I do really like the look of the aliens. I agree with you. I think they really
Oh.
are creepy looking for sure.
And the sound effects on the inside of their craft, which we'll get into when we review it a week from now.
Yeah, I gotta
sound
watch
effects
that
are
this coming weekend. Man, I haven't seen that one in ages.
The sound effects are magnificent. The voice effects are
Can you
great.
make sure?
Pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
No, it wasn't for the stream. It was extraneous.
Oh,
Ah,
But I do love to hear that this next episode is going to be similar to Outer Limits because I love that show. I
I
watched the
honestly
new
think-
one when I was a kid.
oh, sorry, Jill. Go ahead.
I watched the newer Outer Limits when I was a kid because I only had rabbit ears in my bedroom. And it was the best
oh, that was the
thing they would pick up.
1980s one.
90s.
Was it 90s? Oh gosh.
Yes.
forgot.
And, this
But
one,
yeah,
Jill,
there was a lot of good ones. There was some really great episodes in that Outer Limits series.
but this one is very similar to the 1960s original Outer Limits, the black and white Outer Limits,
Okay.
which is even creepier.
Oh yeah, it's still on my list. I am going to go back and watch the older Outer
Oh,
Limits.
you haven't seen those yet, Jill?
No, not yet.
So yeah, the 60s
Oh.
Outer Limits had some really creepy aliens, like
Oh,
really
Jill.
creepy.
I'll send you a top 5, Jill. The and if I can find some archive.org for you to look at for that,
I typically don't need help finding the episodes,
I
but
apologize.
send me the no, that's okay. But the list I would appreciate.
Okay, so the Sixth Finger is the closest thing you're going to find to Star Trek TOS.
Does that have Dave McCallum in it?
Cool.
Yes, it does.
Well,
Dave
Jill
McCallum
that
is the
will
star.
interest Jill right there because we've been watching Man from U.N.C.L.E. So
Right. So Dave McCallum, and it is 100% the kind of science fiction you will find in TOS. There's the mice, devastating, but also
oh yeah,
very
that's a freaky one.
that's also very TOS, but it's a bit nastier than TOS kind of implied. Then you have, it's not TOS, but it's very scary, and I hope Joe won't laugh at it. The Xanti Misfits, which scared a lot of us as kids. In the
Oh
70s.
yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
And oh boy,
Hey, how about Demon in the Glass Hand? That's probably my favorite of the series. I love that episode.
Hey, that's Philip K. Dick,
Yes,
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan
Harlan
Ellison.
Ellison.
Harlan wrote the screenplay. It's got
He
Robert
actually
Culp, and he's
sued-
awesome in it.
he sued a certain person over that. We won't get into it, but
Yeah.
and they settled out of court. But
Great episode.
yeah, so Demon with a Glass Hand is great, and then there are some other. Oh boy,
Hey guys, guess what? Maybe
too.
maybe eventually we need to find time to cover that show. What do you guys think? Because Bird did Twilight Zone, and I don't see anybody else doing the Outer Limits.
I'd be willing. Yeah, I'd go
nobody's
for Outer
doing the
Limits.
old 60s Outer Limits. I will be here for you, Pop, if you do that.
I would do that.
Absolutely.
I would totally
That's why I
do
picked.
that.
Yeah, that's why I picked Lost in Space. Nobody else is talking about it, so this is how you spur up
Yeah.
interest in the younger generation.
I'm
One of the
glad we're
reasons
doing
I
Lost
bring
in
it up
Space.
is, especially for Jill, it's the original 60s version, not the later versions, is the pretty much the first real science fiction / horror subgenre, because it's really about horrific stuff mixed with the sci-fi, and anyone who likes Event Horizon is going to love this original 60s series.
Right, and as you guys all know, if you understand Twilight Zone, it's kind of like Twilight. I don't like to compare because they're two different things, but it's like Twilight Zone, but with more emphasis on horror and monsters.
And science fiction, and also on very, very dramatic storytelling, more film noir stuff, more stuff that hits you in the guts. I mean, Twilight Zone wants to grab you by the heart and scare you a little bit. Outer Limits wants you to scare you to death and run behind the couch.
Oh yes.
And a lot of kids, I mean, people in Britain and Australia and other places say, "Oh, Doctor Who used to make me run behind the couch when the Daleks came in." But nothing compared to Outer Limits. With Outer Limits, sometimes you would turn the television off and have to wait 10 years before you saw the episode. It was that scary.
And just like Twilight Zone, many episodes influence many other TV shows and movies. So there's a lot of times you're going to watch it and you'll get callbacks like, "Oh, I remember a movie that was like that, or a show that was like that."
But with Twilight Zone, the only thing that freaked me out as much as the Outer Limits was How to Serve Man. That was the only one.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I met Richard Keel.
Oh God, you lucky bugger! Oh, I admire that man so much. Oh God, rest his soul.
I have a limited edition Kanamit doll in my closet.
Oh,
I'm sure it'd be worth
You
some
lucky
money.
guy.
oh.
The thing about Twilight Zone, though, I think it was more about, Serling was more interested in, having stories that made you think about
Morale,
whatever
the moral of the story. Morals.
the moral
Human condition,
the
as he
moral
said.
lesson. Yeah, exactly.
Sterling was concerned about the human condition, whereas Twilight Zone and Joe Stefano was asking us about our concept of how the universe works at all before the human condition.
Basically breaking reality down in some episodes.
Right, and the reason why Sterling focused
more sci-fi. 100%
right, and,
more
reason,
sci-fi.
and I'm a big fan of Sterling. The reason why he focused on morality a lot more is because he saw the horrors of war when he was in the war because he was a veteran.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the background too that influenced the writer. Is why you see a big difference too. Because with because with Outer Limits, you get a lot of horror sci-fi, and they were influenced by older movies and books. But it was the horrors of war is what really made Sterling stand out, and why Twilight Zone is such a good show even today.
Yes. And also, his daughter, to her credit, was very respectful of her father, Mr. Serling, regarding that.
Anybody ever play the Twilight Zone pinball game?
No, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't even know.
I
it
had
existed.
one. It cost me $4,000, and that was
Oh
before
my
I added the mods.
goodness!
I'm
That's a lot of
impressed.
money.
It was great. Carol Serling, the wife, now she's passed away, but she signed off on it, so it had the actual theme played, and it had like it had but an interesting camera. It had a lot of references to all the different episodes on the
cool.
playfield. It was one of the most popular pinball games up there with Addams Family. Those two are the biggest.
Yeah. Somehow I missed that one.
Good old pinball. I miss it. I used to have like 6 or 8 of them.
Yeah, I remember playing pinball back in the 80s. Yeah.
I know. They still make them. They're not built like they used to. But the best company was Midway, and they don't make them anymore. Now it's just Stern.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
remember
still okay.
Midway.
They still make them.
Jeez, I played a lot of pinball when I was like in my 20s.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was if I liked the game enough. Like Whirlwind was one of my favorites.
I'd always end up tilting the damn machine, and I'd
Oh
lose.
well, that happens. And if anybody's asking, no, they did not get us dates, but they were fun. And I still prefer them over a video game, a coin-op video game, any day.
Yeah. Oh well. Part of my youth.
Oh, but
Long
anyway,
gone,
okay. So I know it's running later, but I'm sorry. I usually try to keep this much shorter. So to wrap this up, I put a poll in the chat, and I apologize because when I put the poll, I was in a hurry because we were running late for the stream. So I forgot to add the last option, which was if you wanted to vote for D+ to F-. So if you wanted to vote for that, and it's not in the poll, please let us know in the chat because I welcome all comments and criticisms. You will not be shunned. You will be cherished.
I voted at the start, so I voted long ago, and I think anybody who gives this one a D or an F needs to have needs to go see a psychiatrist.
Not necessarily. Everybody's got
I
a
can't
right
believe
to
anybody would give it that bad a rating because it's such a good episode.
I respect everybody's
You
opinion.
get paid
I
for
know,
it?
but there's some people have logical reasons why.
I know Gorilla just wants to
Right.
give an automatic F just to stir the pot.
No, Pop rigged it, so I couldn't do it. I'm kidding, Pop. I'm kidding.
That's okay though. I don't.
So here we are. What grade would you
F.
give? What grade would you give My Friend Mr. Nobody? And it looks like we have.
Gee, I'm surprised it.
Oh,
got such a
nice!
low rating.
54% gave it a. I don't think so. I think B+ to B- is great.
I
54%.
thought there'd be
A+
more
to
A's,
A-
quite
means
frankly.
36. Remember, this episode affects everyone differently. C+ to C- got 9%. I have a feeling I don't want to speak for everybody, but even if there would have been the D to F, it may have been probably 0.
Well, I guess maybe there was, maybe not enough action scenes or something for some folks. That like
Well,
more
and
laser
and,
guns.
and us, we watched it through the lens and the eyes of a kid at the time. So somebody who's been exposed to it today or recently, they're going to look at it from a different perspective, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I do appreciate the other perspectives. That's why everyone's invited here.
To be fair, I respect everyone's opinion on the Howling, but that's what we went through with Howling. So
Things have changed, right? Times have changed. People's perspectives and their outlooks have changed.
Yeah, I do respect everybody's opinion. I mean, if they don't like something, that's fair enough. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
I have heard people say, I fell asleep during 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And, okay, you can say that. I fall asleep during the Scream movies that you love.
I'm not a fan of those either. Yeah. So good point.
Yeah, I
No
remember
offense
seeing
to Scream
2001
fans
as a
out there.
kid, and it blew my mind. So I did not fall asleep.
2001. I mean, if you got the first time I saw that, I did not fall asleep. I was 4.5 years old when I saw that.
Oh my God!
That
must
you had
have
to be
blown
in
your mind.
total awe of it. Yeah, like total awe.
I was like 9, and it blew my mind. So
I was taken to the theater at 4.5 years old because I was sitting there going, I like science fiction when I was a little toddler. And my mom loved that. my dad thought, oh, yeah, really? You want to be the little smartass? Okay, we'll take you to see a science fiction film. Let's see
Cool.
what your opinion is afterwards. And my mouth was agape and my eyes were wide for 2.5 hours. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
going back, I mean, he must have regretted his decision trying to challenge me on that one because I could not shut up in the 2-hour car ride.
All right, show me another one like that, Dad. Where's another one like that, Dad? Well, there is no other one like that, kid.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, really.
Oh, and the ending is so intense.
And
The
it's so
ending is
bizarre. I still haven't figured out exactly what's going on, but I don't care because it's so much fun, right?
I remember I was 4, and I couldn't stop talking for days after walking out of Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. I saw it,
Oh yeah.
and as a 4-year-old, I was like, and it's still. Oh, I'd love to cover those movies one of these days. Oh my God,
That would
there's
be
so
fun,
much.
actually.
Yeah, there's so much behind the scenes info on that and trivia.
Yeah,
I
well, the
love it.
ending of Planet of the Apes is. I remember seeing it back in the theater when it came out, and it was mind-boggling, quite frankly.
They kept what I liked about it is they changed up every movie, and even the very last movie, it ended on a really good note. It never got weak. The screenwriters were always great. There may have been a couple slow movies in between, but it ended on a very powerful note.
Yeah, they had what, 5 in the series? I guess it was back.
Yes.
Thank
Yep.
God for Roddy McDowell, who's one of my favorite actors.
Same here.
Yeah,
Roddy
he was great.
McDowell, everything he ever touched was magnificent.
Even
He was an
it,
excellent actor.
I would love to review
Ah.
it. With the golem.
Oh yeah, the
Oh.
Golem, yes, where he's the proprietor of that museum.
I love that movie.
So do I. When I was a kid, oh my God.
But to get back to what you were saying with Planet of the Apes, I mean, I was a little kid in Australia, and we learned what the Statue of Liberty meant. So the first time I see it, even as an outsider, right, I know what that symbol means. And then we get to the end, and we see the Lady of Liberty in the
Yep.
sand. Oh, holy crap. Oh.
Mind blowing.
Oh
And
yeah.
of course, as we all know, that's Rod Serling who wrote the ending, so that's excellent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I felt like it had a Twilight Zone feel even before I realized Rod
Yes,
Serling had
right.
anything to do with it.
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
similar to some of the endings of the Twilight Zone were almost carbon copies. I hate to use that word, but there were episodes of Twilight Zone where you were totally taken aback and they're in an alien world to only find out at the end, wow, we're here on Earth the whole time. Look, there's telephone poles.
Right.
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
Eve episode, I won't do spoilers for those who haven't seen it, but Adam and Eve who recreate the human race later on. There's a whole bunch of episodes in the Twilight Zone. I mean, I'll be honest, I only like the Twilight Zone episodes that are very science fiction. Those are the only ones I like.
Uh-huh.
But or the horror episodes like The Masks. Okay, that
That
I
was a
love.
good one.
That
That's
I
one of my
like.
favorites.
Thank
It
you.
is.
What's the one with Telly Savalas with the car that's trying to kill him?
No. That's Edward Andrews.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm getting it mixed up. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
I'm sorry.
thinking of
Telly
Telly.
Savalas was in The
Living
Living
Doll.
Doll.
Yeah,
Living
I
Doll with
remember.
Talking Tina.
That
And
was
Edward
scary.
Andrews was the guy with the car that he killed somebody and he tried to hide it. And I loved Edward Andrews.
Yes, that's a great episode. Like they're both great episodes, actually. But I kind of like some of the horror episodes of Twilight Zone a lot, actually. Because
Well, I like them all. Look at the Invaders with Agnes Moorehead.
Yeah, the Invaders. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
then we
my point.
realized that the monsters are actually little astronauts.
And that was the same model they used for Forbidden Planet.
I love Agnes Moorehead.
Yes.
I will not hear a bad word about her. I adore her.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, I always liked her in Bewitched. She was great fun.
All right, and she goes all the way back to the Orson Welles, the Mercury Theater. Sorry.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And I do not care who she slept with. She was a great actress.
Same here. I agree. Look at her performance in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. My goodness.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Wow. Swooning pop.
That's a good one.
Swooning, as you mentioned that.
Well, if I had a choice, we would do a Tuesday of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, followed by a Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. If I had a choice over the whole affair.
Oh,
That would be
boy,
fun.
that would just put Tumblr on its ear, wouldn't it?
I'd go for that.
And by the way, just a shameless plug. Check out my channel, and you'll see where I did videos in LA of shooting famous locations, including the Whatever Happened to Baby Jane house.
Oh,
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, when I was 16 years old, whatever happened to Baby Jane was too much for me because of Bet. Because
Talk about a
Oh.
masterpiece. She is to this day. No, okay. First of all, she's my favorite actress, and my favorite was Charlton Heston, favorite man and female. But nobody is ever going to be able to top her. It's just not possible. Her range and her
Oh.
skills. I mean, it's just not possible, and it's never going to happen that we'll ever get acting people like that ever again.
She was an attractive but an odd-looking woman who became a sex symbol, but also
She
more
had those
important-
eyes, right? She had those eyes, and she was told by Louis B. Mayer of MGM, "You're just not effable. No one's ever going to like you." And guess what? Well,
Well,
he
that's
was
nice.
wrong. He
That's
was
a nice
wrong.
thing to say.
Well, she said that, yeah.
Wow,
She proved him wrong. She
She
totally
proved him wrong.
that's pretty
She was-
insulting to say
right?
that.
Well, guess who was effable? And that was Joan Crawford. But who had the best career? Right? Who was the best known? Who won the most Academy Awards?
Yes.
I wouldn't want to do Joan Crawford at all. Actually,
No, Joan Crawford is what made the casting couch popular.
I don't
She would
find
lure
her
directors and
attractive at all.
producers. Well, no, but back then we all heard of the casting couch where you had
Oh,
these
yeah.
horrible producers who would tell the woman, if you want the role, here's the casting couch. Well, Joan
Yeah.
Crawford would sell her body and say, well, if I sleep with you, you give me the role. She was like the
Really?
opposite of that. And that's why when the whole Me Too movement came out and they were talking about the casting couch, and I would bring up, hey, there were bad women at the time, along with men. Oh no, you're terrible. What a misogynist for saying that. No, it's true. I know a lot of
yeah.
people don't want to believe it, but it was true. Some women used it to their advantage.
And also Bet was somebody who would create things that other people, not us, other people would not know where the phrase comes from, right? So
right.
fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a
Yeah,
bumpy night.
ride, right?
That comes from Bet. That comes from Bet in All About Eve, which even before they had the medical definition is a warning about borderline personality character disorder. And that is a gutsy movie. That was one of my mother's favorite movies and one of my favorite movies. And it is a devastating flick. And it is just fantastic. I mean, my only problem with Bette Midler is she only did about
Bette
2
Midler.
genre films. I mean, she was in Burnt Offering, so there's a good horror movie.
Betty Davis, not Bette Midler. That's okay. I'll forgive you for that.
Bette Midler? I was kind of
Bette
wondering there
Midler
for a
in
second.
Burnt Offerings.
Bette Davis, yeah, but Burnt Offerings. I mean, do agree, Pop? That is a.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is a-
That's when they
Wow.
made the right. That was when the early mid '70s, where they were making TV movies like Trilogy of Terror and Burnt Offerings. They were fantastic. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Oh my
yeah,
God!
those are
Offerings
great
was
films.
actually in the theaters as a theater movie and then sold directly to television. But it had Oliver Reed, and he was awful in that movie.
You're talking about Burnt Offerings?
Yeah,
Hey
Burnt
guys,
Offerings.
we got a lot.
Okay,
awful lot
I
of
have
chats.
to. Okay, just 1 second. We'll get caught up on the chat, but I have to say this in a bit of Oliver Reed. That is the only role I've ever seen where he's, and I thought he was, I never realized as a kid how good of an actor he was, but
Yes,
he is so scared in that movie. He's physically and actively shaking.
yes,
And it made it very realistic. I've never seen a movie where an actor does that before.
yes. And Karen Black and her
Beautiful
transformation.
Karen Black.
Oh my God!
Oh, we're
and-
talking Trilogy of Terror.
No, Burnt Offerings.
Oh, Burnt Offerings. I have not seen that actually.
Oh, you
Ooh,
have.
a house, but this is before the haunted house movies. A house that can repair itself. They actually show it with great effects.
That sounds kinda scary.
Absorbing other people.
Yeah, they showed
Wow.
like the side paneling popping off, and you can see new paneling underneath. The house would repair itself after so many years or decades.
That sounds really freaky.
Even with all the stuff that you've seen, do not watch it late at night. Watch it in the day.
Well, then,
Okay.
okay, and we're going to cover on my channel on the horror streams some of these TV movies that we're talking about. We've got to eventually cover them because they stand out and they deserve the attention.
I agree.
I'd love to do a Trilogy of Terror one of these weeks. That would be
Oh,
fun.
well, actually, I'm going to be talking about that with a friend of Claudi's. who actually uses the Zuni as his avatar oftentimes.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Oh yeah,
I
But
think I have an idea who you're talking
yeah,
about.
the Zuni
exactly,
fetish warrior, right?
Batman walking. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Yes.
But I'm going to be talking about that with him in June. But maybe if Pop wants to talk about it earlier, that's fine. I don't think Dadman would mind because
I
it is
usually
a
let the voters choose. I can put it up in the options, but it depends on the voters.
yeah, but it is a universally by people who have good taste in horror. It is a universally beloved film.
I've never
Oh,
shown it to anybody who did not like it. Every generation, no matter what age, were absolutely enthralled with that one. It's Prey. That one segment is three.
Oh,
There was
that's
three in the movie, but that's
yeah.
Prey. And I've never ever shown it to somebody who did not get enthralled from beginning to end.
That
what Jill
Zuni
would like
fetish
about it,
doll gave me nightmares for years after I watched that.
what Jill would like about it is
Like
the film is in
seriously, that
three
was
segments. The film is in three segments. You have three
the scariest
chapters,
thing I think I ever saw.
and Karen Black plays the main character in all three segments. But in
Yes.
one of the segments, she plays two characters. She plays twin
Amelia.
sisters. Yes, and so she is playing four lead roles in one film, and she nails it 100%. She is just the ultimate actress in committing to the bit. She is showing as much respect to this little television horror film because she's a professional. Was R.I.P. God rest Karen Black. She is absolutely committed to this as much as she was committed to what Hollywood what Hollywood really loved. Come back to the Five and Dime, sorry,
Yes.
you know the one I mean.
Billy.
What? It
Bill-
sounds like she has a lot of range.
She has a lot of range, but she didn't disrespect things because they were genre, Jill. And a lot of
Right.
actresses, they will not take it seriously if it's horror or science fiction. They won't, Jill. They just won't. Whereas, for Star Trek people, Sally Kellerman gave everything to that first episode she was in Star Trek. She gave everything.
Right,
And-
but I have to say a lot of the credit, obviously, for Trilogy of Terror is, don't forget, produced by Dan Curtis.
Yes,
from
Yeah.
night
Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows. But
One of my
but
favorite
most
shows
of all,
of all time.
right, and most of all, and rest in peace, the great Richard Matheson.
Oh
So
yeah.
they were all written by Richard. He did a lot of television work, including Duel. I can go on and on and on. The Incredible Shrinking Man, on and on and on. I can go about Richard
Karen
Matheson.
Black was
Oh my God,
fantastic
Duel.
in that
I mean,
film, though.
To be
She
honest,
really was.
I got in trouble in Hollywood when I was trying to be a screenwriter when people said, "What's your favorite Spielberg film?" And I said, "Duel." Oh,
Huh?
well, I
What?
mean,
You mean it's not E.T.?
yeah. Dad, I said I hate ET. I was.
E.T. the extra testicle.
Okay, Pop, you're gonna laugh, and I hate to say this, but everyone else is crying when the feds were coming in to try to kill ET, and I was going, "Yeah, do
Dear
him,
Coyote. Yeah. Good. Right. Light him up, folks.
bastard." I hate him. Oh God, I hate that movie so much. That is my least favorite Spielberg film, E.T.
But it's like Wizard of Oz. It's a coming of age movie for many generations of kids.
I despise it. Give me Jaws. Give me Duel. Give me his de facto directing in Poltergeist. Give me those. Okay.
Hungry Boy, was that you that mentioned on Twitter earlier today about Legend of Hell House and The Haunting?
Oh,
Yes,
those are
of course
great
it was
films.
me. Of course
Oh,
it
my-
was me.
Oh, it's like I'd love
Haunting.
it. Both of
Haunting
them,
would be
I
a
would
great
love
one
to
for
cover those.
Tuesday.
There's so many movies I want to show on my stream.
I love The Haunting. Haunting's a classic.
Well, 63 Haunting, we will not talk about the filmic abortion that is the remake
No,
in
none of
1990.
the remake.
No. I mean the '60s version for sure.
Exactly. But the Legend of Hell House with Roddy McDowell, which is based
Oh,
off
yes.
a novel directly, that is also fantastic.
Yes.
It's PG-13.
Also Richard Matheson, right?
Again, that's why I bring it up. It's terrifying. It is terrifying.
It is. I saw it as a kid, and I loved it. And I'll never forget. 1 week later, I saw Arnold with Stella Stevens.
Ah, that's so funny. But I mean, the whole thing. I mean, the way they actually frame the shots with the outside sets and then the inside sets in Legend of Hell House, I mean, the actual physicality of the environment is oppressive and horrifying
It
and
is
just
almost like a documentary. It's like, okay, just stick the camera over here, and it's
yes.
like,
And
or it wasn't. It didn't have the sweeping orchestral score for the scenes. It was very quiet, and there was many scenes with no music at all,
but
and it
then
was
they'd have
very
that
jarring.
synthetic music where it was just going
Yes,
boom, 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 boom. The heartbeat of the house. That was the first time you heard the heartbeat of the haunted house, and it was
yes.
terrifying. Boom, 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 boom,
And
boom,
for you
boom.
young guys out there, young kids and or girls or gals, whatever, just to let you know what we're talking about. It's one of the ultimate haunted house movies. It's about a house that is so haunted that they hire a team of, they're all psychics to go in there and try to figure out what's going on, and it kills them one by one.
And
So
Roddy
it's got a step
McDowell,
above a lot of movies.
I will never go back there. I was there before. Remember that great scripting? He had been there before. And he said, I
Yes.
can't go back. And they had to convince him to go back. And he said, if we go back, it'll kill us all.
Did you read the book?
Yes.
Okay, and the most horrific part is when he killed Mrs. Tanner. I loved
Oh,
her, and then I read the book. How what really happened? I was like, oh my god, I can see why they didn't show that in the movie. There were so many parts where, oh my god, they couldn't show that in the movie.
well, it was 1973. I mean, this is
It
something
was.
I
Well,
bring
they
up.
couldn't show that now. They couldn't show it now. What way he killed her? All we saw in the movie was a statue fell on her, but in the book, it actually explains exactly what happened when the statue fell on her, which is,
But
uh,
you cannot do that accurately. And back in '73, I mean, there's only so much you could get away with because the censors were going to say no. They were going to say
oh
no.
yes,
And
oh yeah.
I bring this up.
Or you'd get an X rating. That's why they're always threatened with an X rating. And Dawn of the Dead was the first one to say, "Screw that! They will take the X rating."
I mean, in Britain, because they had a different definition of rated X, right? But they had rated X. Curse of Frankenstein was rated X.
Oh yeah. Well,
And the
yeah.
other
Well, darn Hammer for showing those boobies every now and then, right?
but even before they showed movies, I mean, just Christopher Lee looking so horrifying as the
Oh
creature.
God. When are we
Was
going to cover the Hammer movies? That's like meat and potatoes of horror.
I know. I mean, it's
I know.
comfort
Right? I could
food.
do a horror stream 5 nights a week, and it would still take me years to get through them.
I mean, Quatermass movies were rated X.
Oh
Quatermass.
yes.
I mean, the British were actually. It's so funny because they got no problem with the boobies and the buns, but when it comes to horror, they get very, very hair.
I
You know
still
what I mean?
remember I had Nightmare. The English retitle was 5 million Years to Earth.
Right?
And the scene where at the end with that guy's on that crane and it's headed into that big devilish figure into the face, it's
Oh,
like
it's one
gives
of my
me
favorite
chills. It's
movies,
like,
dude.
wow.
We need to do a stream on that one too. That I actually recommended that to several people, but that one's good. It was actually done that the entire original television series of that before they made the movie. You
Yes.
can find that on the archive. The television series is better, even though the budget is lower.
Well, obviously, but as a kid, oh man,
Yeah.
the invisible insects. I mean, oh my god, what a fantastic movie.
And the
But that
burning, the radioactive burning of the face of the
yes.
brigadier when he's down there. Oh, horrifying, horrifying.
And I have to mention I loved the color back then, the three strip Technicolor, where it really
Yes,
stood out for those horror movies. I mean, there was a period in the 70s and 80s where they stopped doing that, and that really suffered. A lot of things suffered.
I agree. I agree. But you remember, even though there was no horror to it, you remember when there was the guy who was working in the pit, Quatermass in the pit, working in the pit, and he got possessed by the Martians, and he does that weird dancing walk throughout the streets until he
Oh
gets into
yes,
the job. Oh, that killed me as a kid. That killed me. Oh,
Hey, I
I
do
know,
need
Jill.
to.
I was gonna apologize. I know it's
But
late.
you
And
know what? No, but I don't want to interrupt. Y'all are having so much fun. I just want to give my review and head out so y'all can.
yeah, I was just gonna. And I do apologize, and I'm sure there's people dozing off in the audience. So, yeah, at Hungry, you and I could talk for days on this, and we will do that soon. So,
Yeah, that
Gorillas
sounds
Red
like
and
a
Pots.
whole live stream on its own. But
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
Gorillas
should
Red
head
and
out
Pots.
soon too. I gotta cook some supper and get
All
some
right. Well, let's
sleep.
make this quick. Okay. First of all, in order. I don't know. For Gorilla, it's like after past 11. Gorilla, give us your thoughts on this episode of Lost in Space if you still remember what we're talking about.
Wait, what were we
Well,
talking about?
yeah.
I swear to God, I didn't doze off here. I swear to God, I did
What
pull in.
grade? Yeah. Sorry for the delay. What grade would you give this episode of Lost in Space, my friend Mr. Nobody?
All right, I do got to docket a couple points there because I feel like they could have explained Mr. Nobody a little bit better than I've been here for millions of years of sleep. That's like all I could even remember him saying about that. We got better
Okay.
explanations of what, like in Star Trek the original series, we got better explanations of what let's see, the City on Edge, whatever the time machine's name.
the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah, the
Right,
Guardian
yeah.
Forever. We got
Time
better
machine.
explanation. We didn't get as good as a good explanation what the Guardian. But we could tell it was a time travel machine, and we could physically see it. Where Mister Nobody was just like a guy with a fucking boom mic. Or sorry for the swear.
Oh,
Just a guy with a boom mic there. They're talking into a cavern there. That's all we got out of it. Or we got better explanations of we couldn't physically see what Red Jack was, but you could see like the person he was like inside, and we got an explanation of what he was. He's an entity that popped from person to person that was a serial killer. But we did not get that kind of explanation in this. But overall it was a pretty decent episode. I was intrigued on it. It's a good penny episode for once,
cool.
And,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
and we got the probably the start of the trope of oh, that's just a kid's imaginary friend. The mother's not gonna believe her. Or, oh yes, honey, I sure do believe you. I had an imaginary friend when I was your age, also. But
Right.
I'll give it an A-. But if they will explain, it would have been an A+ if they will explain Mr. Nobody a little bit better.
I appreciate it. And everybody out there, please check out Gorillas Red and Pots channel. He's got a fantastic channel with a lot of different reviews of TV shows and movies, and some hilarious shorts. So definitely, please check those out when you can. Jill. I'm so tired. Tell us about what you think about this episode. I know you're tired too.
Yeah, well, I did accept that this is a unexplainable godlike entity who talks to Penny and everything. I love that this episode addresses the real concerns that the family would have regarding finding fuel to get off the planet and get back, either in contact with Earth or go to Alpha Centauri as they planned or go home, as Dr. Smith wants. That's ultimately the end goal, and we are still on this planet. So some work towards that is appreciated. And Penny finding sentient life that is essentially a godlike being when you get down to it was a lovely plot line. And hopefully now when Penny says something, people will believe her first before accusing her of just being a kid with an imagination, which may be true because she loves to read and everything. But it's important to listen to children even when things are unbelievable. It's too bad that the energy force decided to be a galaxy, or else it could have maybe helped the family find more useful deposits to find more
Oh,
fuel.
that's true.
Good point.
Yeah, very
And
good point.
Also, Dr. Smith provided just the right amount of antagonism, and we got some explosions. It's a solid A for me for a fun sci fantasy series. The only reason that it doesn't get any pluses is because I am too gloopy and I like useless things.
Totally fine. And everybody,
Oh, boy.
everybody, please check out Antiderivative Jill's channel. She's got a fantastic range of videos. She does TOS series, and tomorrow, in fact, we'll be covering TOS. We're going to be doing a little unknown episode, Mock Time. Where Kirk and Spock fight, and the music's done by Gerald Freed.
Yay.
So yeah, if you're available tomorrow, Jill will be covering that. And
I'm
she also
beyond
has
excited.
I know it's a great one, and I can't wait. And she also has a Plamique Tea Time on Fridays, where she has open topics every week. and she'll also sometimes do late night streams of open topics or gaming. So fantastic, everybody! I couldn't recommend Antiderivative Jill anymore. We're friends that go way back to our first day of our first stream together. So
Yeah.
I could not say more that how much I appreciate, and thank you, Jill, for helping us tonight. I know it's late.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here.
I
Yeah,
just
the
want to
Uh,
say
Hawkeye.
I've never thought of Jill as gloopy.
Hey,
Oh, I know it was just a joke. I'm just picking on Will's statements.
okay, hungry boy, your turn. What do you think about this episode? What's your grade?
okay, I'll try to be really quick. A plus plus plus. This is one of the Horta episodes for me. Jill knows what I mean by that. Um, it has all the emotional stuff. It has a whole bunch of science fiction elements to it. It has metaphysical elements to it, and it is rare in any television episode, much less a science fiction television episode, that I, as a kid, would get so much that would reward me in the heart. And then when I see it in my 20s, it rewards me again. In my 30s, it rewards me again. And it never gets less. No matter how many times I see this episode, it never gets less, just like the Horta episode. So A plus plus plus, and I'm done.
I agree. I have to mention, yeah, just like TOS. Every time, no matter how many years, how many times you watch it, the older you get, the more wiser you get. Every episode changes right in front of your very eyes. It morphs to where you're like, well, this isn't like the first episode I watched when I was a kid. You realize so much more, and it's like, oh my god, it brings out the appreciation because the layers, like an onion. I hate to use the old phrase, but like an onion, all these shows back then were written so well that they will evolve in front of your very eyes the older and wiser you get. Rock and roll, Mr. PvP. Tell us about what you think.
Well, I give it an A plus 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 ad infinitum. It's possibly my favorite episode of the entire series. It's definitely in the top five. There's other great ones too, but somehow for me, this one will always be a favorite because I just think Jackson Gillis's screenplay is pretty much near perfection. I really can't critique it in any meaningful way. So I'll just say I think what he wrote here was a great examination of childhood. You know, with the loneliness of a child moving into adolescence, and the adults around dismissing the things that were real to Penny. I love John Williams' score. I think it's probably the best thing he wrote for the series. It's delicate at times and powerful when it needs to be. Um, yeah, there's just so much good stuff in this, and that ending when Penny, says, to the entity, I love them like I love you, and that totally takes his wrath away. And I get emotional even reading that, thinking about it. And that goodbye scene just it does bring tears every time I watch it. So yeah, I think this is a perfect episode, really.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And everybody, please do check out PvP. It's Pleasant Valley Pictures CA's channel. I've had these links in the chat kind of rolling through as we've been talking, and he's got some fantastic references and videos to great, great, fantastic music. And he will be doing his own live stream soon. Maybe Outer Limits might be a good way to kick it into gear. But
Yeah,
yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
I know he's getting new to this. So yeah, everybody, please do check out his channel. And for me myself, I'll give this episode an A, and for a lot of reasons I mentioned throughout this episode and through the notes, is that I love that Angela Cartwright got her first big breakout episode, and they spent a lot of time on Penny, and they really dropped a lot of responsibility on her shoulders
Yeah.
for carrying this episode, which she did a great job of. It shows a child, you get somebody with talent, they can carry an entire episode like this. So her depth and her range back then and her experience was definitely visible right there on the camera. And so
Yeah,
when
she was
Jackson
great
Gillis
in it.
wrote this, yeah, when Jackson Gillis wrote this, and as knowing now, we know that he wrote other episodes based around her. It gives me the more reason to be excited when we get to those. So I'm really happy. But The only con I can think of is it's too bad we don't get more episodes of Judy. She seems to be out of all of them the most
Yeah.
sideline character, which is but you can't go back and change the past. But that's what I would have done. I would have given them all better roles and bigger roles. But we can't fight the time in history. We don't have a time machine. As Captain Infinity will tell us, you can't go back in time, right?
True.
But I mean,
Not without making another timeline.
yeah,
Not that making the timeline, right?
nice one,
Yeah,
Jill.
unfortunately, the female characters did often get underrepresented in the episodes. Sadly,
Well,
And
we cannot affect the culture of the early 1960s to the mid 1960s. We can't do
true,
that.
true.
it is. I know, but it's a time capsule that can't be changed, which is what's great. They cannot go back and change this, which makes that's the best thing about it. Is we'll always have the original to cherish. So once again, I recommend everybody physical media, because there's going to be a day where you won't be able to find this streaming on any service at all because it won't push the message that they want.
And
Gorilla, go ahead.
Pop, just to back you up, if you cannot buy the DVDs, download the stuff by hook or by crook off various.
Aye, matey. Right.
various sources, and then load that into an external hard drive so it is a de facto physical version.
And the
yeah,
Blu-ray
that's what I
versions
do.
are out there. Me too. Blu-ray versions are out there, guys. So,
Okay, but I do know you guys have some chat to read. I want to say goodnight and talk to you guys
Yes.
later.
thank
I
you,
gotta
Jill.
go.
You got homework to do for tomorrow too. I
I
understand.
do. I'm so excited. This is one of my top 10. So I'm gonna see you guys later.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye
Good night.
bye. Good night.
Good
Thank
night,
you, Jill.
Night, Jill.
Great work.
Thanks.
So yeah, Jill did a great job on the slideshow. So yeah, we couldn't have done
Yeah.
Gorilla. Now let me address you really quick. How you gonna be able to hold it very much longer to help me with the chats, or are you gonna crash?
I can hold it.
You can hold it. You sound very tired and exhausted. Okay, let's see. Where do we leave
Poor
off?
gorilla.
I got
Poor
it.
Gorilla.
I got it started here.
Okay, thank you.
Basil, welcome there. He says, "Hi guys, live long and prosper."
Yes.
Greg says, "Hi Basil, good to see you here." Basil says, "I hear Pop has a B-day coming up, so happy birthday."
Yeah, it's
Oh, we
today.
did-
My birthday's today, but I'm celebrating tomorrow for the Little Shop of Horror stream. But yeah, both days. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm old.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to say happy birthday, Pop, before I
Happy
forget totally.
birthday!
Thank you.
Yeah, Basil says hi, OG. Basil says hi, Phantom. Cheers, Oil Greg. Here's the link to Jim's Landscaping LLC.
Check out Jim's channel, everybody. Great content.
Yeah, Phantom says hello to Basil. Phantom says original Outer Limits was top drawer.
Oh yes.
Phantom says tickets to 2001 was one of my high school graduation presents in 1969. Captain says Kojak. Captain says Christine. Captain
Yeah, we're behind on the chats. All right. Tilly's
Yeah.
Heroes, yes. No, we're talking about Tilly's Wallace, everybody, just to get you caught up there.
Yeah, I tried catching you 15 minutes ago, but
No, I know you did, and I'm so sorry. I apologize.
yeah, Sean Carter says, "Hey Pop, are you able to check your Twitter? I just sent you a picture of one of my most cherished items."
Thank you, Sean. I will as soon as the stream is over. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Phantom says Herc. Herc says PB. This is the Phantom Boomers channel.
Check it out, everybody. And Phantom Boomer, I'm going to catch GOG. Now that my internet is back, I'm going to watch it on my laptop. So let me know when you want to reschedule. Go ahead, Gorilla.
All right. Sean says hail to Herc. Phantom Boomer says Sean Carter. Herc says I'm still in love with Elizabeth Montgomery. I have been since I was 9 years old.
Join the crowd. I always wanted a threesome with her and Barbara Feldon and Barbara Eden. It's like, okay.
I like her
That'd be a foursome, Pop. Not a threesome.
What's that?
That'd be a foursome.
Oh, well, maybe they'll let me in the room eventually. I'll keep banging on the door forever. I promise I can stand here all day.
Oh, Elizabeth Montgomery with dark hair in Twilight Zone. Yum, yum.
Yeah,
Right, which is a real hair. She was actually a brunette. That was a
Yeah,
wig.
a lot of us
Samantha.
had the hots for Elizabeth and Barbara back in the day because, man, they were.
You know,
so
she was
special.
okay. She was. I'll make it fast. She was married to the producer William Asher, and whenever she would dress up as as Sabrina, they would go and get motel and do their little thing because they had kids and they didn't want to go home. But he was really into that kinky stuff.
Okay, that's interesting.
There's a reason why we liked the cousin, the evil cousin in Bewitched. There's a
I
reason.
know. Well, just like the evil genie, right? Her sister's like, woo, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, I'm glad Jill.
Oh, rest in peace. Elizabeth Montgomery was taken away from us way at too early of an age due to cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's that damn cancer again, eh?
Bless her.
All right, so
Thank you, Gorilla.
Sean says hail to Phantom Boomer, sir. Sean's going into lurk mode. Captain says, Infinity says freaky deaky. Here's Resolute Germs channel for Saturday morning cartoons. I can't remember what we're doing next week. It's something with the dog. I never heard of
Something with the dog. Well, check out and check out his channel, everybody, and subscribe to Jeremy, and you look up and it'll show what cartoon he's covering, and hopefully it's a good thing with the dog.
Yeah, it's something I never heard of. But that's not saying much because Jerm wants to slap me every week when we do Sunday cinema.
Really, you're such a youngin.
It's okay.
Oh, come on, I'm only 18.
There you go.
This is Oiler Greg's channel there. And thanks to Scotty R37 subscribed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate everybody. Okay, so we've all said our reviews, and everybody in the chat, thank you for spending so much time with us. My God, 3 hours, 20 minutes. That's a lot of patience, and it really, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It means a lot to me because I know your time is very valuable. I'm not like a doctor who's going to make you wait out in the living room or out in the waiting room for 3 hours. So when you guys are here, there's so many other places you could be instead, but you chose them here to be here, and I think that's fantastic. If you're watching this on the rerun, I hope you appreciate it. Maybe consider hitting the like button and subscribe, and hit the alert button for further notifications. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on Antiderivative Jill's channel for a mock time around noon Central Time, and then tomorrow night at 6 will be our horror sci-fi review of Little Shop of Horrors, and then followed Wednesday by Gilligan's Island. We'll cover 2 episodes with the wonderful Gorillas Random Thoughts.
Yeah. And amok time there, the episode that proves that men will kill each other just to get laid.
Which is unfortunately a fact. Right. Unfortunately a fact, yes.
That's a good one.
Okay, so without further ado, thank you guys in the chat. And most of all, thank you for my esteemed panelists for helping me get through tonight. And I couldn't think of a better birthday to have. You guys made this very special, and I'll remember it always.
Well,
and I hope to see you tomorrow.
You got a great episode on your birthday, I must say, Pop.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, exactly. No complaints here. Yeah, exactly. My day could have been a lot worse, but no, this is. I mean, no matter how work was today, you guys made everything worth it tonight.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah,
But if you were Charlie Brown, it would have been the Great Vegetable Rebellion.
Oh God.
Right.
Well, that was kind of fun too, actually.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I'll debate you forever on this one. I'm glad.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Well, we'll have a good time making fun of it.
It's like
I'm
Spock's
glad
brain, you know.
one. That's it.
Okay. Well,
Oh well.
yeah, we'll have a good time making fun of it when we get there. We've got a few weeks before we get there.
Oh, it's going to be a while. Yeah, it's going to be a
But-
while.
But my God, I do not want anyone who does not appreciate musicals and well-built sets and Frank Oz to be showing up soon, if you know what I mean, because it's gonna be a love fest, baby. It's gonna be a love fest for the Little Shop.
I know, and expect a lot of excitement and endearment. And tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night, you might get to tears. I didn't have tears tonight, but I just made tomorrow for Audrey.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys, and have a wonderful night. I know a lot of you work tomorrow. Drive safely, and especially if you're living where it's cold, try to stay warm. And peace and take care.